Miguel Myers. Welcome to My Horror Confessional, where every week I will have a guest come on and talk about one classic horror movie that they haven't seen and why. We'll discuss the movie, the actors, and probably get off topic quite a bit. Once I believe that they have properly atoned, I will absolve them of their horror movie sin. Today we have Aileen from Uy, que horror. I have trouble rolling my R's a lot in horror, so I think I got that right.
You did. You
All
nailed
right.
it.
So, in this spooky podcast, Eileen Clark and Jonathan Atkinson explore the often overlooked world of Latinx horror films. Every week, they watch a different horror film, whether it comes from a Latin American country, is directed by a Latinx director, or has Latinx star as its lead. If it's Latinx horror, Johnny and Eileen will watch it. So, Eileen, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Miguel. Do you prefer Miguel in the Spanish way, or do you want Miguel?
No, whatever is more comfortable for you. I
Okay,
grew up.
I warn you, it's gonna be probably Miguel. That's
I
what's
love it.
gonna fall out of my body.
I love it. It's good to go. Um, I actually love, and I was talking to Johnny about this, and he's already been on an episode, and I'm not sure what's going to go first, but I was telling him how much I love your guys' podcast. I love
Thanks.
the concept behind it. You guys are hilarious, and you're like going over movies that nobody is going over just because they are Latinx, and
Yeah.
so I was wondering, where did the concept for this for your podcast come from?
You know, the pandemic hit, and all of us were like, what the hell do we do in our lives now? And I started watching movies with Johnny and his boyfriend, fiance now, Matthew. For during the pandemic, we literally were like, okay, let's just make a little mini movie club and watch some movies, and we alternated between horror franchises and action movie franchises. And I I compared to Johnny, I'm a horror baby. Like now I would consider myself a horror like teen. If we were to look at my span in the horror world. But our movie club really grew my library and my knowledge of like classic horror movies, especially the franchises and everything. And then one day I was watching, I forget which movie, and I was like, there are no Latinos ever in these films. There's never any Latinos. Where are the Latino horror stories? And I know, like, if you grew up in a Latino family, there is some sort of like cucuy, llorona, chupacabra, some sort of story that either a tío or a tía or your abuelita or your mom would be like, okay, if you don't do this, some weird animal or creature is gonna get you. And I'm like, that's horror. You know what I mean? So
You're in the store and they're like, "Ese hombre te va a llevar."
sí, oh my god, ese hombre te va a llevar is the epitome of moms in stores. Like you cannot, that's how they kept you close. And also, not for nothing, the horror of like, quédate aquí, or just wait till we get home. Espérate que lleguemos a la casa. And you're like, that's horror too. So, but one day I was, and during the pandemic, obviously, like not doing anything, I felt really creatively unfulfilled. So I asked Johnny, I said, listen, I think it would be really cool if you and I just like went in a deep dive and found Latino horror movies and, did a podcast. And him being the horror nerd that he is, he was like, hell yeah. And I think for both of us, it was very much like, okay, we're scratching the horror itch, Avi, but we're also seeing and learning what the rest of Latin America has to offer, because guess what? It's there is so much, and that's the thing that surprised us the most is like, holy shit, there's a lot of shit out there. And
Mhm.
and that's basically how we started, and then we just kind of on Saturdays started recording, and bam, I spent like a solid week researching, and I have Excel list of about 200 movies, and they're all divided by the countries that they come from, and
Hmm.
some of them we cannot find. We're just like, where the hell is this thing? And some of them that are out there and everything, but it's been a great journey of discovery on all kinds of ends.
Yeah. And had you or Johnny had any experience in the past with podcasting?
I had been on like a couple just like comedy nerdy things, like because in New York I was part of the comedy community there, and comedians love to just put a microphone in front of their face, whether it's on stage or at home or wherever. And so, not none creating my own. We
Hmm.
literally went into it blind. We were like, how the I we know we need a microphone and we need a computer, and the rest we were like flying by the seat of our pants because we don't know what the still we've been at it for a year, more than a year now, and we still don't know what the fuck we're doing, but we're hoping for the best at all times.
Well, fake it till you make it, right? Because you guys,
Absolutely. That's
yeah.
what you got to do.
Well, it sounds great. Like I said, I was trying to remember how I came across your podcast, and I can't remember, but I do know that once I found it, I was like, oh my god, like this is exactly what I've been looking for.
Oh my God,
Uh,
that's so nice to hear, because we're constantly like, are people going to want to listen to this? And I've known Johnny most of my life, literally. Like, we've been friends since middle school, high school. And it's, I know that I can chat with him for forever, and he can do that with me too. But, like, who knows how people would like to hear our dumb conversations? And turns out some people do. So thank you, Miguel, for your listenership. We appreciate it.
well, the best podcasts are always the ones where you feel like you're in the room with the people just shooting the shit, and you're just
Yeah.
listening to friends talk, and that's what you guys going. That's what you guys got going on. So it's
Well,
great what you're doing.
thank you.
I asked Johnny this, but I'm curious to hear your side. What you guys are friends in real life, so
Yes.
how did you guys meet?
So hilariously enough, I was living in Brazil, and so was he. And I had changed schools and went to the American school in Brasilia, where Johnny and his brother and sister were already attending. And when I went to that school, I was like, oh, here's my new friends. And there's this kid, Christopher Atkinson, who is Johnny's older brother. And
Mhm.
he was in my grade. And I was like, okay, well, making friends, whatever. And then one day he had a birthday party. And when you're in fifth grade, you kind of have to invite everybody in your class, you know what I mean, to
Mhm.
a birthday
Yeah, yeah.
party. So I wasn't close to Chris, but like I went to this birthday party anyways, and I remember seeing Johnny with his little bowl cut, like dancing to Madonna on the dance floor.
Okay, Johnny didn't left this part out.
Yeah, of course he did. So like, he I knew of Johnny because of Chris being in my grade, but not officially like, hey, we're friends, we're hanging out.
Mhm.
And then they moved to Bolivia and I stayed in Brazil. And then I moved to Nicaragua and they moved to Nicaragua. And somehow, again, we collapsed our bodies against each
He's
other.
obsessed with you.
Yes, that's what it is. He said, that young curly girl in a matching vest and shorts that I saw at my brother's birthday party, I want to know what that lady's up to."
Yeah.
So they moved to Nicaragua and we reconnected, and that's when it like began,
Mhm.
because I again connected with Chris first because he was in my grade, and then Johnny, one day I called the Atkinson house. Johnny answered the phone and Chris wasn't there, and him and I had like a 2.5 hour conversation, and it was like immediate. I was like, this is the person for me. And obviously, when you're a young person in high school, you're like, I'm in love with him. We're made to be together. Little did I know he turned out to be a beautiful gay man. But still, like the friendship we built was so great, and we loved Madonna together, and we loved like musical theater. We did Little Shop of Horrors together. He played Seymour. I was one of the gals that was like doing the other stuff, and so
Okay.
it was
And so pictures of this are going to follow in the Instagram, right?
oh, I have a VHS of that performance, and I don't know how to, like, I'm again, like I said before, I have a microphone and a computer, and I hope for the best, and that's my way of seeing technology in general. There is a VHS of Little Shop in my house that I'm like, how do I know there's a way to translate
Hmm.
that into like
Yeah.
computer stuff, but I haven't figured out yet. But when I
Listen,
do,
we'll talk after.
yes, get ready to see skinny little Johnny, and he was wearing a giant button down shirt and giant pants and just being like, suddenly Seymour. He was so cute. Just a sweet bean being
Wait,
Seymour.
so this was in Argentina, correct?
This was in Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, sorry.
Yeah.
But the play was in English still?
Yes, because we were going to an American school,
Oh, okay.
so we did the show in English. It's so funny.
Gotcha.
A lot of people, whenever I talk about like living in Nicaragua and Brazil, and my experience in like with high school things is always very Americanized, and people are like, "But wait, you were doing that in Spanish?" It's like, "Nah, dude, I was doing
Yeah.
it in English because it's an American school."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So that's like a really like beautiful story for like a lifelong friendship.
yeah.
That's amazing. And I feel like I was talking to Johnny about this that my experience with horror has kind of been singular, where
Hmm.
like not a lot of my people in my family were into horror and didn't have a lot of friends growing up that were into it, so I kind of had to explore it myself. But it
Right.
seems like you guys had that built-in connection. Or did you? Did you know right away about the horror, the love for horror?
Well, he was obviously very open about it from jump. He was like, "Well, I love horror, and if you don't like it, well, that's too fucking bad." And I was like, "Well, guess what, dude? I don't like it because in high school, that was not my jam at all.
Okay.
If anything, the few horror movies that I saw were forced down my throat by him. He took me to see the Exorcist re-release in the movie theaters. Didn't sleep for weeks. He took me to see Blair Witch Project in the movie theaters. Again, didn't sleep for fucking weeks. That night, my cat decided to literally lose her fucking shit on the roof of my house, and I was like, well, the Blair Witch is here and that's it, and I'm dying today. If you find
Yeah.
me looking at the corner of a wall, you know why. And
Oh,
but like,
spoiler alert for the
spoiler
30-year-old
spoiler alert
movie.
if you haven't seen the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
Um but he showed me The Shining, he showed me Jaws. Like all the horror movies I saw were
Mhm.
Johnny led movies.
Okay.
And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I like sat down with myself and said, "Eileen, you're a grown ass woman. You know that there's good horror out there."
Mhm.
So I challenged myself to watch as many horror movies in the month of October. About, I think it was 6 years ago. And I watched like I watched what's Pinhead? What's
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser. I watched Hellraiser. I watched Alien and Aliens. I watched I watched Halloween, and then once I watched that Halloween, Johnny was like, "You're coming to DC, and we're doing all of the Halloween." So we did.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah. So once I opened the door, I was like, "Okay, I see it. I feel it. I love it. I want it. Let's go." You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's kind of leads into the question I ask all my guests is what is your history with horror? And I know we've gone a little bit over with your history with Johnny and all, but how about like within your family? Did they approve of it? Did they not? Did you have other family members that were into it?
Not at all, dude. I mean, it my dad couldn't give a hot fuck. I try to explain to him so much. Like, okay, first of all, just trying to explain to him what a podcast is in general is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
But like, and then explaining to him like it's a horror based podcast. He's like, yeah, don't care. Okay, cool. The
That's
rest of
cute.
yeah, he's like, all right, good for you, hun. The rest of my family kind of is just like, it was never a go-to like let's go watch a scary movie or let's like whatever. It was never a thing for us, and it was which is why I think I had such a fear of it, that I was like nobody around me is excited about it or wanting to watch them. So in general I was like, well, that must mean they're absolutely horrifying and I'm cool with that. I don't need to see it.
Mhm.
And but you know, I knew with Johnny was my through line. He was the person that was pumped every time. Like I laughed so hard at him for having like his go-to websites to check in the morning were Facebook, Instagram, and fucking bloodydisgusting.com. And I always was like, what a nerd, dude. Why would
Yeah.
he? But that's his thing. So, and now that's my thing, which is hilarious. And
Yeah.
it's been a good mind opening experience. And I don't know, I love that I am a goopy girl, that I love like gore and shit like that now, and I like being excited about like, oh, that was fucking an awesome kill or whatever. Like I think that's so fun.
Yeah.
So, and my family is just nodding and smiling, be like, okay, good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So my wife was kind of like you, maybe a little worse, where she has trouble with a lot of like extreme violence, and like she's like
Sure.
with visceral stuff. So when we first got together, she was not with the shits, but like little by little, like I wore it down, and now like she like 80s is her genre, her decade for horror. She
Great.
loves it
So
because
good.
it's like practical effects, and I showed her, while like
A
you could
dream.
tell this is fake, but
Yeah.
it looks so good, and
So good.
yeah.
And
So
there's
she's
like
kind of
the
come around to
camp element of it too. Like the 80s camp is an easier pill to swallow, I think. Like you see the guts and the gore and everything, but you're like, yeah, but look at fucking Freddy's face. Like he's got a fucking glove with knives on it. Come on.
it.
Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Uh
So is there a genre that you don't fuck with, that you're like, that's too real, or like, like I don't like that?
I mean, the every time I think of a horrible genre, I only think of one film, and it's the movie we did from Chile on Uy Que Horror called Trauma, which was very like violence against women focused, and it was
Mhm.
there. Any movies that have too much rape in them, I'm just like, come on, guys. This is unnecessary. I understand, like, you're just trying to fucking punch up all that stuff. And when Johnny when Johnny's told me about Cannibal Holocaust,
Yeah,
he's like, "Ooh, girl, don't do it. Don't ever watch it. You don't have to do it. Yeah, you don't have to." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna. If you hated it, I'm gonna obviously hate it."
yeah.
So, but for the most part, I'm pretty into like any and all of the things that there are to offer. I think there's such there's great opportunity in all kinds of that kind of storytelling. I think for me, at bottom line, if the story is good, if it's told properly, and if it looks awesome, then you have a great horror movie on your hands. And if you're using that kind of stuff just to like shock people, and it's like, we get it, dude. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But you
Yeah.
make it mean something. I'm not opposed to not having it be on screen if it is absolutely important to the storyline, or if it's used in a good way. But if you're just gonna do it for being a fucking like, ew, gross, or oh my god, I'm shocked, then then you're a bad storyteller and you should be doing something else.
Yeah, you can tell when it's servicing the story and when they're doing it to be edgy,
Yeah,
and that's yeah, I get that. So
totally.
that kind of leads me to the movie we're talking about. But first, I'll say like, are you a religious person? Do you believe in spirits, like that sort of thing?
Well, like a good Latina, I
Uh,
was raised in the Catholic Church.
okay.
So I'm not practicing in any way possible. If anything, I'd consider myself spiritual. Like if I were to say like, oh, I hope or I'm praying, I never say God, I say the universe.
Mhm.
Just because like I think energy is definitely more like stronger than some dude with a beard in the sky. Like, we don't know that. But
Mhm.
we know what's going on around us at all times and things that you can feel. That makes more sense to me. But I know all the Our Fathers and Hail Marys and all that shit. I know all of that. It is
Yeah.
ingrained in me. I know it in Spanish, in Portuguese, and in English because
Yeah.
God bless. When you have a Latina mom and you live in Brazil, she's like, a mí no me importa. We are going to church in Portuguese. And you're just like, great. Okay. Now I have to learn this in this language. So,
Um, okay, so then that leads me to your confession that you have never seen the Omen from 1976. Is that correct?
en el nombre del Padre, el Hijo, Espíritu Santo. Father, forgive me for I have sinned. I have never seen the Omen. And I watched it this morning because I was like, I wanted to be fresh in my body and in my brain. And man, Gregory Peck is a tall motherfucker. Like
Handsome,
he,
handsome too.
handsome. Like
Yeah,
bless him, that hair, those eyes, the brows. Like he's just a and like I have a special soft spot in my like whole entire body for the 70s and the way that the 70s looks. One of my
mhm.
favorite horror movies that we watched recently or last year was Black Christmas, and man, those outfits were to die. Give me sorority in the middle of 1975 and
Mhm.
I'm in heaven. A turtleneck with a vest on top, a fucking cardigan and a pair of slacks. Like I love it. And he looks fantastic. She, the wife, looks also beautiful. That hair, the whole thing. You're just like, yes, give it to me.
At one point, and I noted it, he's wearing a green crushed velvet sport jacket.
Yes, I know. I when I saw that crushed velvet blazer, I was like, are you kidding me? That
Like,
is beautiful.
style icon.
Truly, truly, just
Style icon at
gorgeous.
60 years old,
Now, so this obviously is after To Kill a Mockingbird, right?
Mhm.
Yes. I I had I'm a poor cinephile, I guess, also because I think the only other Gregory Peck movie I've seen or important that I loved and remembered was To Kill a Mockingbird. So seeing him here, I was like, I love that he was this icon in that movie of like a children's book and like a character that is so formative and like important, a dad that's very like the ideal dad, that's a dream dad, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then this fucking dad that you're just like, well, my my kid's the devil, what am I supposed to do?
Well, in To Kill a Mockingbird, he was a daddy, and in The Omen, he was a zaddy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Zaddy for days. And like him and whatever her name is, the sweet wife, they had such good chemistry. I am a sucker for chemistry on screen. And when two people have like good palpable like especially if they're supposed to be a married couple, like Craig T. Nelson and what's her dick in Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Those two, that's for me in the horror land, that's the epitome of like fucking hot couple of horror that has beautiful chemistry. And I think Gregory Peck and his wife in the film, also like just he just when she that in that scene when she's like, I don't want him to kill me, I was like, a, it broke my heart because
Hmm.
she like mustered every fucking like strength in her body and her bones to say, listen, that little shit, he's gonna kill me and you better not let him. And
Hmm.
he had to like sit there with that information, and I was like, oof, this is rough.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it because yeah, this
Yes.
this movie it was great to watch. Like, I remember watching this had to be definitely over a decade ago, and I thought I knew it, and then I watched it for the podcast, and I was like, I don't remember the second half of this movie, so it went somewhere. So let's go.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I had when I finished it, I literally walked because I'm in San Francisco right now. I'm seeing my family, and I walked out of my little guest room here that my cousin and her wife had set up for me, and I walked out because I woke up at 5 a.m. because I still don't know what the hell time it is right now, and I watched it, and I got out of here. It was around 7, and they were both awake, and they're like, hi, and I go, The Omen is one hell of a movie, guys.
Why do you think this movie passed you by?
I think first and foremost because it's older, because it's from the 70s. I think by the time like horror movies started getting in my periphery of like what are movies to watch, I was that was like not interesting to me. Like, ew, the 70s, gross. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
And then I just never really thought about it. I remember seeing like uh moments of it in pop culture, like in other things that I love,
Hmm.
like hearing the hee hoo hoo ha, like that brought back something for me, but in a way that I was like, I know this from other things, and like the 666 and that kind of stuff. Like I was like, I've seen that in other parts of pop culture that I enjoy, but other than that, I was just like, oh, it's just an old people movie about a weird demon child. I don't think I'm into that.
Well, you also had like the sign off in your email was.
Well, so that's the
Did you knew
that's
that?
the one thing I knew was I remember in like the early 2000s, VH1 used to have those like talking head shows called like I Love the 80s and I Love the 90s and whatever.
Yeah.
And so they had an I Love the 70s one too. And I remember them talking about The Omen, and they showed the clip of her being like, it's all for you, Damien. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So, a classic little moment there.
All right, so then let's get into it. So
Hmm.
we're talking about The Omen from 1976, written by David Seltzer, who also wrote the 2006 remake, which is
No
kind of weird. You don't
way.
see that very often.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
normally it'll just be like characters based on here or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
but he actually
yeah.
wrote it again. And then directed by Richard Donner, who's an absolute legend. He did Superman 1 and 2, um,
Nice.
Lethal Weapon 1 through 4. He did
Never
the.
seen any of the Lethal Weapons. I
All
know
right,
we're
we're cutting
confessing
this
about
off.
horror. I know we're confessing about horror, but if we're confessing about action too, never seen a single Lethal Weapon.
Okay,
What a
so
shame.
I'm starting a new podcast, my action confessional. We'll
There
get to
you
that
go.
after this one. Do you have another
Perfect.
like 5 hours free to talk about this?
Sure, why not? My family can see me another time.
Okay. He also did the Goonies. Have you seen?
Of
Yeah, he,
course,
yeah, he
that
did the
one
Goonies.
is a classic.
Yeah, and then he did Scrooged, which was one of my favorites with
I
Bill Murray.
recently watched Scrooge. It was my first time seeing it for the first time was last Christmas, and I was like, "Look at this cute little movie. I really liked it."
Yeah,
And
so
Bill Murray, hello.
Bill Murray is great. Yeah, so he's a legend, Richard
Yeah,
Donner
man.
is. Then starring Gregory Peck, who was in To Kill a Mockingbird, and he was also in Roman Holiday.
Right.
which I've never seen, but I'm
Me neither.
aware of it. And then Lee Remick played the wife, Catherine,
Yes.
and she was in Anatomy of a Murder, which is another like classic horror movie. I haven't seen either,
Ooh.
so I'm confessing. I'm making a bunch of confessions here.
Listen, guys, we are all confessing all the time here.
Yeah. And then Damien was played by Harvey Stevens, who was only in 3 movies, 2 of them being The Omen, because he had a cameo role in the remake.
No
So,
way, did
yeah,
he?
so
That's
he
kind of
was like a
cute.
reporter or something like that. So yeah, but he didn't. Wanted to see if maybe he became an actor, but it doesn't look like he did.
Mm.
So talking a little bit about the history of the Omen. Oh, and just to back up, I want to say that I got a lot of my resources from Wikipedia, from IMDb, and a bunch of other sources on the internet. So, in 1973, an advertising executive and evangelical Christian by the name of Robert Munger, who had read the book called The Late Great Planet Earth, speculated to film producer Harvey Bernard about the possibility that the Antichrist might be walking the earth in the form of a child, unknown to the vast majority of humanity. This conversation inspired Bernard with the idea for the film that became The Omen, and Bernard commissioned scriptwriter David Seltzer to write a script for them for the film. So that's where the idea for the movie came from.
Wow. Can you imagine being at like whatever Hollywood cocktail party and just having 4 Manhattans in your liver, turning to your friend and being like, "You know what, buddy? I'm pretty fucking sure the Antichrist is just some random kid walking around the fucking city." And you're just like, I think you've had too much cocaine, Bob, but that's fine.
Yeah, either that or you're like, let's make that movie.
Yeah, or holy fucking shit, you've just had a brilliant idea, my dude.
Yeah. So the movie starts with this haunting score and this like Latin choir singing, which you made such a great impersonation of earlier.
Thank you so much. Ooh, hee, ha, ha.
So I'm going to clip that, and we're just going to be putting that throughout the
throughout the episode. Perf.
Yeah. So then we see a silhouette of a child lit in red, and his shadow is forming a cross, which that's great imagery. And then we see the title of the movie, The Omen. And I think this is the movie that started my like fuck them kids attitude. You know, like
I agree entirely. Fuck them kids.
either like this one or like Problem Child. I don't know if you ever saw Problem
Oh,
Child.
I was obsessed with Problem Child 1 and 2. I would rent them all the time. My mom would be like, "Mira, niña, deja de estar alquilando the same freaking movie over and over again." It was always Problem Child and Problem Child 2. I loved Problem Child 2 because it was a little girl being a fucking piece of shit, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to be that little girl so bad."
So Problem Child for me was like I think was the beginning of my anxiety because watching those movies like you get so anxious and like
Yeah.
I had so we lived in Chicago and we lived in a 3 flat and my brother lived in a basement. It was a finished basement and I would watch like Problem Child or What About Bob? Did you ever watch What About Bob?
I never watched What
Okay.
About Bob, but I remember people either loving it or fucking hating it.
Yeah, and I think there was another one like Cabin Boy or something like that. Something that was just gave me so much anxiety. So like I started like with this anxiety, I didn't know what to do. I'm like an 8-year-old, so I started busting holes in the wall.
Oh my god!
I was like, my dad's like, "What are you doing?" He came down. He like took a month to build this basement, and I just like tore all these holes.
And you're like, "I can't handle my feelings."
Yeah, I was the problem child. Holy shit! I just realized.
Yes, there it is. It's all full circle. Your dad
Fuck
is
them
like,
kids, man.
"Fuck them kids, dude." Dennis the Menace was my shit. I loved Little Rascals. All those movies that had little kids, I was like, yeah, I want to be that. I want to be that crazy kid that's running around. But,
And were
now that
you?
I'm an adult, kind of. I had my moments. I'm an only child, so every now and then, like, I would get crazy. But, when you're the kid of a Latina mom, you can't get too crazy without getting a chancla thrown at your head. So,
That's right. That's right. Um, All right, so um, we see on the screen it says Rome, June 6th, 6 a.m. Get it?
Six six
Do you
six six
guys
six
get
six six
it?
six.
You get it?
Yeah,
So they're kind of spoon feeding things here, but that's all
yeah,
right.
yeah. That's the
Uh,
70s for you, though. I think. I think back in the day they were like, let's really ooh, we gotta let them know that this is the time to be scared.
yeah. So we're in the back of a nice car and looking at a very handsome Robert Thorne, played by Gregory Peck, who was 60 years old when the movie was released.
Wow.
He seems to be impatient as the car weaves through traffic. We hear him thinking the child is dead over and over, and so already we know something's wrong.
Now was that voice meant to be like the priest, or does he, is this him having already heard this, the news of the child being dead? Is this a premonition? Is this meant to be just like, ooh, audience, get ready, a child will be dead? Like, I couldn't place where or whose voice that was supposed to be.
Yeah, I took it as maybe he got a call saying we need you to come to the hospital immediately. The child
Sure.
is dead, but at the same time, I think that's horrible etiquette to tell somebody over the
Yeah.
phone the child is dead. So
Yeah,
maybe it
I
was a premonition. Maybe he was just worried about it. Now
maybe.
that you bring it
Yeah.
up, so he arrives to the hospital and it's filled with like nuns and priests. And Robert says, so he's talking kind of to some other to a priest, and he says he's sitting down. He says very lowly that this will kill her. She wanted a baby so much. He doesn't know what to say to his wife. So apparently, their newborn has died during childbirth.
Right.
Um, the priest, very callously, I feel, says you could adopt a child. Um,
This fucking guy. A, sir, you're a priest. How about some bedside manner to the person who's just lost a child? A.
right.
B, how dare you come up to me on the day my child has died and be like, but guess what? There's this other baby over here. No, mom. No, mom. And guess what? He could be yours. We don't even have to tell your wife. I was like, yo, this is shady as fuck. Y'all are playing with this woman's feelings who just lost her baby, and you're just gonna plop a different baby in her arms and be like, you did it, girl. Hell yeah, you gave birth. That's not cool.
It's actually really terrible. And like the priest just like opens up his jacket and is like, "Yo, we got this extra baby here,
Yeah, it's for
free ninety
reals.
nine,
It
free
might as
ninety
well
nine."
have been a gold Rolex fucking thing.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. No.
And so we come to find out about this priest later on in the movie as well, which I think was a nice connecting point. Um, so Robert says no. She wanted her own. Later, we see a nun is holding a child and presenting it to Robert, and the priest says, it even resembles you and your wife, like you said, need never know. It would be a blessing for all involved.
This is a baby pusher. This
He's
guy's a
he's
baby.
yes, exactly. He's pushing that baby out.
He said, look at those little fingers. Don't you like him? He's premium quality baby, dude. You're
Yeah,
gonna love this baby.
yeah. What do I got to do to put you into this baby tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you need from me? I'll throw in extra pacifiers and diapers. You are gonna have the best baby in this town.
it's like, yo, this is a white baby. You know how hard you got
Oh my god,
to
do
get
you
a
know how
white
hard
baby?
it is to find a white baby, my guy?
Yeah. So Robert asks about the child's parents or family, and the priest says the mother died at the same moment yours did. So I'm thinking, first of all, how do you know that? How do you know the exact same moment? And then, like, second of all, like, watch your fucking mouth. The shit just happened. He's like too
Dude.
callous.
True, totally.
So I was thinking, what Robert did is extremely fucked. Like taking this child as their own and not telling his wife. But
Yeah,
but I have to remember that he's also going through some crazy shit right now as well.
that's
So
true.
while what he did, I think it's inexcusable, and he's one of the villains of the movie. I would say I have a degree of pity for him.
it's like I I see the feeling of like wanting to keep your wife happy, and also like you've just lost a child obviously, but also like couldn't you have turned to that priest and said, "Hey, I don't know, let me just talk to my wife about this first." Like, maybe I can convince her or whatever, but this dude is like, "Take this baby now. You don't know. Like it's gonna like
Yeah,
just have a conversation with your wife, dude. Just talk to her. And maybe then she could also take the blame of adopting Satan's fucking kid, but
right. And meanwhile, like the priest is like, "Yo, this this offer expires at midnight, so like,
True. Yeah, for reals. You
yo,
got to
I got
do it
another,
now.
I got another couple coming in. They said they were really interested in this white baby."
And I'm pretty sure that the baby that they lost, I mean, come on. We got to keep this baby moving in circulation, okay?
Not in circulation. Okay, so Robert says, we can act like it's our very own. I'm like, you still got that new baby smell, you know?
Dude.
Robert relents and walks into his wife, Catherine Thorne's room, holding the new baby. And I'm thinking, did he even ask to see his actual baby's body, like the dead body? Did that ever cross his mind?
I don't think so, because not to jump so further ahead, but like later on he sees the skeleton of his baby, and
Mm,
he sees that the baby was murdered, right?
right. And I did have a question about that. So I
We'll
was going
get
to ask you
there
when we
when we
get there,
get
but yeah, but it seems to me like it didn't even cross his mind. Like I understand that you love your wife. I love my wife. Everybody loves their significant other, but like I don't know, inquire about the body. I don't know. I don't know how it would be in that, but it just seemed weird to me. You know?
And I also don't know like what the maternity process was back in the day. I feel like there was a lot of not coldness, but there was a good, there was less of the, "Oh, I need the skin on skin," and like I need like this, like the baby relationship with adults back in the 70s was like, "Well, I gave birth, where's my cigarette and my fucking 2 fingers of whiskey in with some rocks, thanks so much," you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
maybe it's a little bit of that.
and I as well. I don't have any children, so I don't know the process of now or even back then. But it always amazed me. Have you seen Halloween 2?
Yes.
So obviously it takes place in the hospital, and there's that one
Right.
scene where like that one nurse is responsible for the infant unit or whatever, and there's just a room full of babies with like nobody around.
Yeah, yeah,
And what
yeah,
do they
yeah.
do?
I
That's
think
and,
I've
and there's no
that
security there. I mean, there's nobody guarding the room.
No, they're just hanging out and they're like weird crystal cribs, and you're just like, okay, well, it's our collection of babies that were born
Yeah,
today or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that was always just weird to me. So yeah, that's right. Like maybe that's how they were. They're more lackluster in their.
yeah, yeah.
So. Um, Later, in a beautiful part of the city, Robert arrives home to his gorgeous Rome, like I don't know, mini mansion or something.
Dude, the houses in this movie are absolutely gorgeous.
The architecture is amazing. They're in
Fantastic.
Rome. It's beautiful, and we see that the child Damien is about 2 years old now. And Robert has advised his wife that they have to start packing. They're leaving immediately. As they're walking and talking, like Catherine just like hands off Damien to like a football
Oh
to one of
my
their
god,
servants.
I laughed so hard. She was like, cuz he's like, "Honey, I got some news for you." And she's like, "Oh, really? What is that? Here, sir. Take my child." Like the random dude, like a random butler that she had. She's like,
Yeah,
"Take him. Oh, dear, tell me all about it. What are you talking about? You're the new ambassador to England? Fantastic." And it's like, "Where'd your kid go?"
yeah. I mean, rich people live differently,
Absolutely, dude.
So, as you said, he's been assigned to be the ambassador to the Court of St. James, which apparently is the official title to being the ambassador to Great Britain.
Oh, fancy.
So yeah, so then we see them in London. They're arriving at another beautiful estate. Catherine walks in and says she's already told him yes. She loved it the minute she saw it. Um,
This couple, they need to have more conversations with each other. They are making very important decisions without having a check-in with their partner. They're like, listen, I know this baby may be Satan, but I'm just gonna say yes to this random weird priest and keep this random baby. And then the lady's like, honey, I know this is maybe a haunted mansion, but guess what? I already said yes. We're doing great. It's like, guys,
And
come on.
later on in the movie, they something happens where they're like, "Oh, I thought you did it. No, I thought you did it." So like they don't communicate.
Guys.
Um, so yeah, it's this, and also like I know this was made in '76, but it feels like more like a '50s relationships with them. Maybe because
Yeah.
he's older and she's younger, so he's more like a, I don't know, maybe groomed her or something. Because he's more like a I don't know, maybe like a father figure, like where he
There
makes the
is,
decisions.
yes, there is very like he's the authoritarian in the relationship. And I think it's that like it's that oh, he's in politics and he's obviously older than her, and she's just like along for the I'm the pretty bride and wife, and there you can tell they love each other and that there is romance there, but they know each other's place, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so it kind of reminds me a bit of like Rosemary's Baby,
Mhm.
like that whole vibe,
Yeah.
where like where the what the man says goes sort of thing, and even later when we're talking when the psychiatrist comes into play,
Mhm.
something happens, and I'm like, what? But we'll get there. So,
Yeah.
um, Robert says it's a bit much, but she says nothing is good enough for the wife of the future president of the United States.
I
That's
mean, whoa.
she's got ambitions.
Yes.
She and it feels like she's joking, but you can tell that there's some truth there as well. Like
Yeah.
she's totally bought into that lifestyle. You know.
And I think like knowing I living in Brazil and in Nicaragua, I knew, especially when I lived in Brazil, because we lived in the capital and I went to an American school, I knew a lot of people, a lot of the kids from all the embassies, that cuz all most embassies are in the capital of whatever country that you're living in. And I went to school with a lot of the kids from the people that worked at the embassies, some of them being ambassadors kids and whatever. And like it's a privileged job. Like those people, I remember going to their houses and they had like, it was like, whoa, fucking Egypt's kid over here is doing pretty fucking solid for himself. Or like my mom used to meet with the other embassy moms and be like, well, today I went to India's embassy and holy shit, it looks really nice in there, and like that kind of stuff. So, I'm sure
Yeah.
the wife is like, ambassador of the United States in England? Hell yes, bitch. I'm getting a
Yeah.
mansion. I'm getting 7 nannies. I'm having a full carnival for my child's 5th birthday.
Oh my God, we're gonna get there. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you for bringing that up. So let's all right. So they tour the rest of the house and they see Damien out on the patio, and then Robert like closes the shades, and then just starts macking on his wife, which
Yeah,
that's
he's
the nice.
like, I love
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
darling.
let's let's go look for some furniture to lay down. I was like,
Yeah, I was
dude,
like, dude.
chill, chill.
Also, if you want to do it standing up, you can do that too. Sure, you're 60, but like, come on, you can make it. You can make it work on the
Yeah,
ground. Lie down on the ground, my guy.
and but I'm like, I mean, he's 60. He needs to chill. He's gonna have a heart attack or
That's
something,
true too.
So Lee Remerick, who plays Catherine, was 41 when the movie was released. So there's
Oh
about a 20
wow.
year age difference, which of
Hmm.
course, old school Hollywood. I mean, they still do that to this day.
Oh my god, totally.
Yeah, but think about it. He's 60 years old with a 2 year. Oh no, do we say 2 year old? I mean,
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
yeah.
But
It's for her. It's fine. Like to have a 2-year-old at like that age. Sure, why not? But yeah, you're gonna have an old dad, Damien. Like
yeah,
sure, your real dad is Satan and he's super fucking old. But your regular human dad is also pretty fucking old too.
yeah. So uh, Robert says, you can't be too sexy for the White House. So
Ugh.
I like their little rapport that they go on. They have
Yeah,
a little.
sweet little back and forth.
Then we see scenes of them like strolling through the English countryside as the sun sets. Later, we hear that Robert will be flying back home to America to have lunch with a former college roommate who has now become the president of the United States.
Well,
So
well,
he
well.
has those connections.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, so you got this gig because your ex-roommate was the president. It wasn't because you like worked hard to be an ambassador. You just like fell into the gig, my guy."
Right. And I think I learned recently that that's all ambassadorships are. It's like connections. You don't go to ambassador school or anything like that, you know?
No, you just like, well, I couldn't be mayor, so I guess I'll be ambassador.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you helped my reelection campaign. All right, we'll throw you to
Yeah, we'll send you to
Olivia.
Japan or
Yeah.
whatever.
So, but Catherine says she's going to be staying home. Then they realize that they've lost track of Damien. They start yelling for him as they find his toy horse next to like this babbling brook, afraid that he may have gone in the water, but they find him safe just a few feet away. So the kid is looking creepy. He says like, "Hello." I can't do the English accent, but fuck that kid, man.
Hello.
Thank you, thank
Hello,
you.
mummy
Hello,
and
mommy.
daddy.
Yeah,
I genuinely, because I obviously never seen this movie, I was like, oh, maybe he like fell in the river and died and then they bring him back to life and maybe he brought the devil with him when he came back to life, but that was not the case.
yeah. That was like part five, part
Yeah,
six.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We then see a montage of young Master Damien, birthday parties, beautiful family moments. I was going to say it's a pretty big to do for a kid, you know, like you're saying, this carnival festival. But then I remembered like my Mexican, Puerto Rican birthday parties, and there'd be more adults than kids. There'd be
Dude,
beers everywhere, drunks everywhere.
oh my god, yes. Fucking always a jumpy house. One of those like big fucking inflated house that my family still does that. It'll be
Yeah.
the baby's baptism and it'll be like everyone is just wasted and you're just like, guys, it's a baptism. Can we relax? Jesus
No,
Christ.
no, we party all night, you know, and
All
like,
night. So
and we
Gregory
put
Peck
the,
was like, I'm gonna fucking throw my kid a fucking party, dude.
oh yeah,
Ring Barnum and Bailey? Hello, yes. My kid is turning 5. Can you build a tent outside my house? Thanks.
yeah. Um, so then a crowd is singing happy birthday to him when this photographer pisses me off, and we'll see why.
Uh-huh.
Because he's just like stalking them throughout the whole movie for no reason. These aren't
I didn't
celebrities.
understand his purpose. Like,
Yeah.
you're here taking photos at this child's birthday party and then you're just continuing to try and like take pictures. Like, what is your relationship to them? It's
And,
never revealed.
and he seems to be like this jack of all trades who knows things about like what the experts say later on. It's
Uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh.
who are you? Are you a photographer? Are you a detective? Are you like a scientist? Like, what are you?
What's your deal? Yeah.
Yeah. He's the most interesting man in the world, apparently.
Yeah, truly.
So the photographer, well, it was not this photographer, but we'll see another photographer. But a photographer breaks out from the crowd and meets up with another photographer, this person, and who says he's not sure if it's just the heir to the Thorn millions or Jesus Christ himself,
Mm,
because they are like, yeah, they are like treating him like like it's more than just a birthday, you know.
totally. Absolutely.
But you know, he is an only child at this point. So you being an only child, like, could you
My
talk to?
mom, my mom used to fucking throw. I have pictures of me in different themed birthday parties. Like I had a Dumbo themed one. I had I think a Cinderella themed one. And all of it was my mom putting a bunch of crazy shit together. My cake for the Dumbo one was a bunch of little cupcakes around a table and she literally had a circus tent going up from each cupcake was like the stake holding down the bottom of the tent,
Oh
if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then it all came to a point and at the top of the tent was my candle, and that's what I had to blow out when we were singing happy birthday. They
So
literally
they
had
just
to,
like picked you up, lift you up.
they full Simba'd me,
Simba, yeah.
lifted me up to the sky so I could be like, oh, I can't reach it. So yeah, only
I love
child.
this. Yeah,
I
your
mean, this is
mama
what
is like,
happens.
yeah, she's such a Latina mom, you know, like,
Absolutely. Oh my
yeah,
god. Anything my kid wants, mi princesa, la niña que quieres, te lo doy. You're just like,
like
okay, thanks.
a flair for the dramatic of
Truly.
it. So Catherine gets a little bit jealous when she sees Damien's nanny. The photographer's taking a bunch of pictures of her holding Damien. So Catherine goes and decides to take him for herself. You know, petty mayonnaise here. Like she can't. Everybody knows that you're the mom. You know, just
Yeah.
relax.
But it's funny because I read it more of like a, I'm sensing something's odd. Because
Oh,
the
okay.
you do see this like nanny kind of, the nanny sees that weird Rottweiler, and that's when, like, after what's her face takes Damien with her,
Hmm.
and I was like, does this mean that she was taken in, like, hypnotized maybe or whatever by the child before the dog? Like, when the dog appeared, I was like, what came first, the chicken or the dog? You know what I mean?
Exact. I had the same question. Like, was she placed there as we'll find the next nanny was placed, or was she just there to be, you know, she was just a regular nanny, and then that dog that we're gonna meet like switched her. You know, I don't
Like,
know. They don't.
did
It's
some
an
dog
interesting thing.
magic. Yeah.
So okay, so to add insult to injury, the photographer takes a bunch of pictures of this embarrassing moment of like the mom taking taking Damien
Mhm.
away from the nanny, and so the nanny has this weird look in her eye when suddenly she comes across that dog, like you were saying, who like mind melds with her,
Yeah.
uh, and then like the music kicks up here as well, so that's great.
Mhm.
We continue to see pictures of this rager that they got going on with clowns and carnival rides. Um,
I wish I was invited to a party like that.
yeah, I'm happy that we've gotten past the clown thing. I feel like
Mhm.
we all know that clowns are creepy. We don't need
Yeah.
them.
Totally.
Yeah,
Like, we get it, but also, like, sure, make a balloon animal if you need to, dude. Like, who
yeah.
cares?
Like you don't have to wear the makeup. You can just do the balloon animal.
Yeah, just be a
I'm gonna
fucking
pay you.
guy
I'm
at my
gonna pay you
party.
less.
Yeah.
So, but,
I'll pay you less because, more money, more makeup, but,
yeah.
we can make it work.
Um, so when we all of a sudden we hear Nancy, who is the nanny, calling out to Damien, and do you want to take over here? What she says?
Of course, of course. Damien, Damien, she's so happy when she's saying it. Her voice is just like, Damien, 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 it's all for you, Damien. Crash down into the fucking window. I had forgotten that when she jumps off that she smashes into that window below.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah. So she even says like, "I love you, Damien. I love you."
I
So
love you. Ugh, she's a creep.
so we like you're saying, her face, she's got a look on her face of like ecstasy. She's
Yeah.
so happy. Then we zoom out and we see that she's on the ledge of a building with a noose tied around her neck, and she steps off that ledge and just immediately snaps her neck, and then swings into a window, breaking the window, terrifying the maid that was just
The
inside the
poor
building,
maid inside was like, I'm making a cake. Oh my God.
as well as traumatizing all those children who were there in
Can
front of him.
you imagine, dude?
You know
You
how many
go home and
future
you're like,
serial killers that they just made there?
totally. The trauma that has happened in that space. Like, go home and be like, honey, you remember the birthday party I told you that I was going to over at Catherine Thorne's house? Well, let me tell you something. You should be glad that you had rugby today because you missed a crazy party, hun. Shit, man. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
and it looks great too. It looks like
Totally.
an actual person doing that, which I mean, the effect is amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
So the whole crowd just stops and stares, but nobody moves to do anything until Robert like sends a man. He's like to clean it up. He says, "Go," and then the
I was
photographer. Go ahead.
shocked at that. Like, guys, like they're all standing there watching this woman swing, and it's like, okay, snap out of it. Somebody figure it out. The maid needs help. The maid is going through it in the kitchen right now. Can somebody at least go check on her? Like, come on.
Yeah. But nope, they just stop and stare. Then the photographer is still there, like snapping pictures of it, like no doubt
What
salivating
a
over this.
creep. Totally.
He then takes pictures of Robert as he goes and consoles his wife and child. We then see Damien looking at that same Rottweiler, having like a bit of a chat with him in his mind as well.
Let me tell you something about this dang kid. Fuck them kids, yes. But this but this fucking kid, what a great casting that they did. Cuz he was doing things with his eyes that I was like, you're you're a little dead in the face, but like you're still sweet and cherubic and like cute, but there's like there was something inherently creepy about that kid that I was like, y'all nailed the casting of the kid.
Yeah, he was smizing. He was definitely smizing.
Tyra Banks would have been thrilled. You're
Uh,
I in my hand I have two pictures. One of them somebody will be saying and the other one will be going to meet Satan himself. Damien, you are America's Next Top Model. America's Next Top Satan.
yeah. So then Damien like waves at him, and the Rottweiler like runs off.
Ooh, that was real creepy. That little hand being like, bye. I was like, no.
I was gonna say, what do you think the purpose of the nanny killing herself was? Was she a plant from the devil, or was she just a pawn in the whole game?
You know, it's interesting that I mean, I think the whole purpose of him turning 5, like I think the his birthday at 5 years old has some sort of meaning behind it, like, or maybe it's because we're at June 6th again and that
Mm,
was such an important like day, obviously 666.
mhm.
um
Oh, I got it now.
uh-huh. But like I think it's interesting that, you know, because we don't know whether she was enchanted by either the dog or Damien or how long she's been the nanny yet. Like at this point, she's kind of just this ambiguous first sacrifice for us to finally begin to understand, like, oh, something's going on with this kid. Because, you know, I think going into the movie, we understand that Damien is gonna be a creepy kid from the beginning.
Mhm.
But if you kind of don't understand or didn't have that idea, you're just like, what a sad thing to happen, and why would this woman be compelled to kill herself for this small child? And he does seem scared and traumatized when everybody's freaking out until we see that dog again. And
Yeah,
so I think it's a really smart move to keep it kind of ambiguous and like not really knowing what or who or why the reason is she does it. um but I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe the whole time that she was nannying him, in the middle of the night, he would get out of his crib and whisper in her ear, "The devil is your friend," or something weird.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Stop.
Yeah, fuck them
Stop.
kids.
Aileen, stop right now. I need an adult. And then also, I was going to say, like, it when the Rottweiler and Damien were having their chat, I felt to me like he was saying that was your present from your real daddy. You know,
Sure. Like,
crazy.
didn't you like that? I mean, she
Yeah.
said everything's for you, Damien, and it's true. Anyways, gotta go. I'm a big Rottweiler.
So Robert is arriving at work at the embassy and is accosted by newspaper reporters and photographers. The reporters ask if it was true that the nanny left a suicide note or that she was on drugs. He denies all of this. And then we see in that same photographer from the party, He's there and he positions himself in a way that Robert walks into him and makes him drop and break his camera.
Right.
Robert offers to pay for the damage, but the photographer says, "Let's just say you owe me." Fuck you, dude. I don't owe you shit. You
Who
take
the
my money
fuck
now
are
or forever.
you?
Like, vete la mierda. We're not doing that.
See, I was like, you got some gall, dude. You got some gall, some audacity to come up to put yourself in my space and then be like, you owe me one. Who the fuck are you, my guy? Nah,
No, not happening.
no.
So then, upstairs in his office, Robert is visited by a priest from Rome named Father Brennan on urgent personal business.
Oof, this guy
Uh,
was Creepville
yeah,
5000.
yeah. So Robert doesn't know him, but says send him in. And this is a thing that happens throughout the movie. It's like he's just going to visit people he doesn't know. Like,
Right.
dude, like, come on here.
Do some research.
You're the ambassador. You shouldn't just be putting yourself out there like that.
Hello.
With no
Yeah.
security detail or anything.
What about the problems of America?
Yeah, because he does absolutely no work in this movie.
Zero work. Whatever's
Yeah.
going on in the United States, he does not give a shit about it.
No. So the father enters and locks the door behind him, and Robert makes no mention of this. Like, if I had seen somebody who I didn't know walk in and just lock my door immediately, I'm saying some shit, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
So the father is looking very intense, and he says, "We don't have much time. You must listen to what I have to say. He must accept Jesus Christ as his savior now. You must take communion. Only that way can you defeat the son of the devil. He's already killed once, and he'll kill again until everything that is yours is his. Eat his flesh, drink his blood." And then I'm just remembering how weird Catholicism is. It's just
Dude.
so fucking weird.
I mean, I was like, I was not confused. Like, I got it. I was like, okay, so he's coming in. The devil is near. You gotta go to communion. You gotta go to church. Cool.
Yeah.
Are you expecting? Where I'd be like, so do you have a Eucharist on hand or what? Like, do you have a small vial of
That would have
wine?
been a
Like,
great idea.
yeah, like, what? You want me to fucking take a pause and tell my secretary, cancel all my meetings? I gotta go to church and take the body of Christ. Like, what? Excuse me. That's not how it works here, sir.
Yeah.
And also, you're gonna come. That priest came in so fucking hot. He's like, click. You must take the body of Christ immediately. And it's like, dude, what's your name again? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So Robert calls the security, but Father Brennan advises him he's locked the door. He sends for security anyway. The priest says that he was at the hospital the night his son was born. This gets Robert's attention. He asks what he knows about Damien, and the priest says everything. He said he saw its mother, and then Robert says, "My wife?" And he again says, "No, I saw its mother." Robert,
It's
mother.
it's a very specific choice of word there. It's mother. Ooh.
Yeah. And Robert says, "You're referring to my wife." And he says, "No, it's mother." And Robert says, "If this is blackmail, just come out and say it." And then the priest says, "Its mother was a jack." And then security breaks the door in.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what? No, finish your sentence, please.
How was that sentence supposed to end?
Are you asking for real?
I'm asking for real, because I was like, I expected like his mother was a demon, a devil, a whatever, a banshee, a witch, who knows. But in the subtitles it said a jack and then like cut off something. A jack, what is it? Do you know?
A jack-o'-lantern, obviously.
A jack.
No.
A pumpkin gave birth to this small devil child.
It's a jackal.
So okay, it all is coming together for me. So if we go back to the end, what we see, because we'll get pin in this moment, we'll for when we get there. Okay.
So that he doesn't finish his sentence. I feel like Robert should have forced him to finish that sentence, but he doesn't. Security escorts the father out, but he again tells him to accept Christ as he's walking out.
Sure.
Robert looks concerned, perhaps reflecting on his choices, because, yeah, you caused all of this.
You grabbed a strange baby and threw it in your fucking wife's arms, dude. This is on you.
You got this clearance baby. You got this baby on clearance, and now you want to return it.
Totally.
Outside the building, the photographer gets a pic of the father. Later, he's developing these pictures in his darkroom, and he notices a spear-like line appearing in all of the priest's pics.
Father, click, click, click. Thank you. I was like, you. Not only are you a creep to Gregory Peck, you're a creep to this poor priest who is obviously going through it as well. He is like, the body of Christ, and you're just like, dude.
But he sure does pose for the camera, though.
Oh my god, he turns around and he's like, hello.
Giving him multiple looks too. Like,
Yes. Have
bam,
you
bam, work
have,
it, work
have
it.
you seen that vine of a tiny owl going like walking? It's like, okay, Steve, wait for the perfect moment and bam. And then when he says bam, the little owl turns its head all the way around and like struts a pose. That's what it made me think of. And bam.
Got it. I love it. So later we see Mrs. Baylock. She's arriving at the home, and she's going to be the new governess.
Oh boy.
He's the whole
Oh
thing.
boy.
I want a movie or a TV show of just as Miss Baylock.
What is the origin story of this hoe?
Yes.
Like, bitch, that hairdo, like, she is terrifying from jump. The minute she walks in, you're like, I don't trust the way you talk. I don't trust the way you look. I don't trust anything about you. You
Yeah.
are obviously in cahoots with the devil, and I don't like you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, she's already got this vibe. Yeah, so we'll talk about her. So
Mm-hmm.
she introduces to herself, and she says she's here to take away some of their troubles and anxieties. And wouldn't it be nice to be rich and have people to offer to take away all of your problems? Just
You know, yes, yes would be fantastic. But I think even rich people have to like, check some resources and some like, hey, where did you come from and how are you just walking into my fucking house right now?
Aileen, thank you so much. If they just checked references, a lot of this shit could have been solved. It couldn't have happened, like multiple
Totally.
times. She gives them a story, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna check up on that," and then they don't follow through.
They never do. They never do.
So follow up. That's the problem. Like following through. That's the problem.
Yes,
with the movie,
communication is actually the plot point of the movie The Omen.
So she goes on to say that some younger nannies sometimes get homesick or have boyfriend problems, but she's long ago outgrown those problems. And it's like,
so is she insinuating that the other nanny that killed herself is like, oh my god, I'm having so many boyfriend problems, I'm gonna kill myself?
yeah, like she's being total bitch about it,
Yeah, that's A, incredibly insensitive to that poor dead girl, and
right.
B, she's absolutely confessing the fact that she's like, I haven't been laid in 30 years, and this is who I am now. I take care of other people's children.
Yeah. And I don't call women the B word, but this particular woman is
a bitch, a total bitch, total fucking bitch.
So then she immediately asks to see the boy, and when Catherine offers to introduce them, she says it's best to be left alone with the child so they can get acquainted on their own terms. And I'm thinking she is so bossy. She's too bossy for my liking. Like, this is my house. I just met you.
How dare you come up into my space saying that, like, I'm gonna be your boss, girl. I'm your boss. And you're saying, no, I'll see the child. Excuse me? No. It's and the both of them are like, okay, sure, why not?
Yeah, they just let her. They're like, yeah, cool.
Sure,
yeah,
what? Cool. Up the stairs. Why? Go for it. Enjoy.
So she assures Catherine that he won't be shy with her. And then she goes off to see Damien. In the meantime, Catherine says, she likes her and asks Robert where he found her. And he says, I thought you found her. So now you have this stranger running around in your house with your child. And I'm like, the 70s hit different, man. They're just different.
They did not give a hot fuck in the 70s. They said, do whatever you want.
Yeah. We can have another one. Don't worry about
Yeah, fuck
it.
it. We'll find another fucking priest with a large overcoat to give us a fucking weird baby.
It would go down to Babies R Us, like literally
Yeah,
Baby Depot,
easy. Easy.
So they ask her what's up, and Mrs. B says the agency read what happened in the paper and thought to send a new nanny. Kathy says
That's
she'll
not how
call.
agencies work. That's
Yeah,
not how they work, dude.
that's not how any of this works.
Yeah, nobody's just gonna be like, oh, somebody killed themselves at the Thorn property. Let's send them a nanny. Like that. What? No.
Because if it did, there'd be multiple agencies doing that,
Oh
right?
my
There'd be
god,
like 4 or 5 nannies.
it would be Mary Poppins style, like when that line of nannies is outside the door and they're like, "Hello, we're here to work for the bank's children," and it's like, no.
Yeah, yeah. So Catherine says she'll call to confirm, never does. And then Mrs. B offers up her references. Then off she goes. And so Mrs. Baylock, I want to say Blaylock, but it's Baylock, and it's so hard to say. That's why I just started saying Mrs. B.
Mrs. B.
Yeah, she was originally written as a warm, effusive Irish nanny, but for her audition, Billy Whitelaw significantly changed the dialogue to create the cold, slightly sinister character that subsequently appeared in the film.
I much prefer that to like a Mrs. Doubtfire style woman to be like,
Hello.
"Hello, my dear, oh my puppet," or whatever. Like, no, give me this cold, icy hoe. Like that bitch is terrifying from jump.
Yeah, because you can feel that she's there to protect Damien more than the parents are there to protect Damien. She would not let
Absolutely.
a stranger approach Damien like they let a stranger approach him.
No way. That's, oh my god, absolutely. If the roles were reversed, if it was those two coming in to check in on Mrs. B and be like, "Oh, we're going to go up and see him now." She'd be like, "You can eat my butt. You are not going anywhere near that fucking child."
Which we actually see later on in the movie, which is
Yep,
great. Yeah.
totally.
So I think I say they're all too trusting being ambassadors and whatnot. But
Mm.
she enters the room and sees Damien and says, "Have no fear, little one. I am here to protect thee." And anytime someone starts using these and thous, they're up to no
Yeah.
good. We
No, no,
don't
no, no.
speak the Queen's English in this house, okay?
No. There's no these, no thous,
Yeah,
no ests at the end of thing. Hast thou approached?
yeah.
No,
No,
stop.
we pronounce the da, okay?
Da.
Duh. I'm not going to the washroom. I'm going to the shitter, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we're
yeah.
doing, right?
I'm taking care of bidness.
Yeah.
Bidness.
So a great shot of Damien just chilling by the fire, like in his turtleneck, like
Dude,
smiling creepily as she closes the door behind her. Just so good.
he's so good. That kid is so fucking good.
And like you were saying, this like 70s aesthetic, like a smoking room. It looks just so good. It looks great.
So cool. The best.
Yeah. So later, the Thorns are on their way to church, and Catherine calls for Mrs. B and Damien. Mrs. B, oh, she is like a habitual line stepper here.
Dude.
Like Mrs. B says she thinks Damien would rather go to the park. Okay, and like I'd rather snatch your wig off, but I'm not going to do that. Now get my goddamn child ready.
Right now, we're going to a freaking wedding. He's has a cute little suit to wear. Come on.
So again, she says Damien will just make a fuss, and Catherine insists. And again, Mrs. B says, "Do you really think a 5-year-old child will understand the goings on of an Episcopal wedding?" And I love that Catherine like stands her ground and tells her to have him ready in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that she even says, she's like, "I don't mean to step over over your boundaries," but it's like, you absolutely do. You're doing it now.
Yeah,
You're fully stepping over the boundary. You're destroying the boundary and you're doing whatever you please. And it's the audacity of this woman. She doesn't give a hell. It's crazy.
yeah. And it's like, oh, you don't mean to overstep the boundaries. Okay, stop the sentence right there. Just
Yeah,
stop. You know.
that's it. Go get the
So
dang
next we
kid
see
right now.
right, yeah, right now. Run my kid, run my kid. You
Run my kid.
know. So next we see the family on the way to church, the bell tolling as they get closer, and Damien has his eyes like transfixed on the church. In a great shot of the family, like they're smiling behind him, and his eyes are like focused, like laser beamed. It looks great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, as they continue to get closer, Damien keeps looking back at his parents like, y'all don't really know what's about to happen here, do you?
Do you not sense that I am in danger right now?
Yeah. And Catherine says he seems to be scared to death and he's trembling. We hear some more of that like great Latin choir kick in.
Mm.
And then like Robert steps out of the car and Damien goes like full spider monkey and
Dude,
starts like crawling, clawing at Catherine's face and hair and screaming, no, no.
she's wearing a great like blue outfit with like in classic 70s fashions, like a little like turban-esque headpiece,
Mm-hmm.
and that matches like same fabric color as her dress. She looks fabulous. And that motherfucker yanks that thing off of her fucking head. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no. Mira, if it was a Latina mom, she would have grabbed that fucking kid and he would have been quiet. I don't care if you're Satan or not. I don't give a hot fuck. Vos te me sentás ahorita. You know, the kind of you when they used to talk
Yeah.
between their teeth. That kid would have been like, okay, I guess I'm going to church and burning in there because my mom is from Mexico or whatever.
If there was a Latina mom, they wouldn't have peeled off. They would have stayed there. They would have like given them like chanclazos and
Absolutely.
then
Listen,
and
if
like
it was a Latina mom, the minute that baby was in her arms and she would have been like, este no es mi bebé y también es un demonio. Get it out of here.
oh man, yeah. Robert jumps back into the car to help, and then a crowd starts to gather, and he instructs the driver to drive away. So of course the driver, not wanting to cause a scene, floors it and peels away like they just robbed a 7-Eleven.
I
It's
mean, still causing a scene, my dude.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody at the wedding's like, holy shit, the ambassador just fucking, what the hell just happened?
yeah. The least they could have done is like thrown the present out the window or something.
Hello, be like,
Yeah.
congratulations, Mazel Tov, you did it.
So next, we're back at home, and Robert asks Catherine if they should maybe call a doctor for Damien, but she says he's all right. He's never been sick a day in his life. Robert says, "That's right, he hasn't. Don't you find that a little strange?"
How did it take 5 years for these people to notice that their child has never been sick?
Yeah,
5 fucking years, dude.
because they're not raising this kid. Their nannies are raising this kid. You
There
know?
you go. This
Yeah,
is a story about rich people.
exactly. So I'm thinking, like, you want to tell her, just tell her, But like at this point, it's gone too long.
Yeah.
So Catherine doesn't think that's unusual, and she says we have nothing to worry about him physically. Dot dot dot. Pregnant pause here, and then
Yeah.
she says or otherwise. I thought, okay. So there's
Mhm.
something on her mind as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Catherine goes off to bed, and Robert is going to check in on Damien. As he walks to his room, he comes across a growling Rottweiler, and the one and the same that we saw earlier.
Right.
And Mrs. B steps out of the room and tells the dog to hush, as this is the master of the house. Robert says, "What is this?" And Mrs. B says, "They found him outside." He asks, "Who gave you permission to bring a dog into the house?" And she says she thought it'd be good to have a guard dog. And besides, Damien loves him.
Girl, this is not your job. This is not in your job description. You can't, like, not even like, hey, do you think we just found this dog outside? Maybe we can give it a shot and like have it. No, not. She immediately is like, he's in and he's yours. It's now, this is your dog. A guard dog, wouldn't you love it? Like, girl,
Yeah.
this is not your place to be just bringing in any old dog up in my house.
Yeah, like, the dog could have rabies.
Totally.
Yeah.
And even fucking Gregory Peck, he's like, listen, if I want to get a fucking dog, I will go somewhere and fucking pick it. I love what he said though, where he's like, tomorrow you're gonna go to the RSPCA, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to a shelter. That's very good. Adopt, don't shop, all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
But like, again, the audacity, the gall.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So he does. He stands his ground and says, "You're going to get rid of the dog." She agrees. So he goes in to check on Damien, who's sleeping, but with Mrs. B looking over his shoulder. So like she's protecting him, you know. So next, Catherine and Damien go to this. Okay, this fucking scene. Catherine and Damien go to a safari park, and I'm already like, this is not going to end well.
I was stressed. I was stressed from the top. I was like, oh, they're going around animals. This is going to be bad.
Yeah. So we see some beautiful giraffes.
Oh.
Then we hear like the Latin choir singing. Um, it says sanguis bibimus corpus edimus, which before I did my Google search, I can tell because I speak Spanish and
Uh-huh.
Latin. Spanish comes from Latin. You can tell it's something about drinking blood and or eating the body.
Yeah.
And then after my Google search, it tells me that it does in fact mean we drink the blood, we eat the body. So
Uh-huh.
the chorus is just, or I'm sorry, the choir is just singing this over and over.
Yeah. They're telling us like, y'all better be y'all better be going to communion while you're watching this movie because we got to drink that blood and got to eat that body. We got to get our shit together because if you don't, look at what's going to happen right now. Look at those giraffes running away from a small child. Look at the baboons.
So, Eileen, it's time for me to confess something to you.
Oh my goodness.
I used to be a altar boy,
Okay.
and we would get there. Sometimes, like my mom worked in the mornings, and my middle brother and I wanted to get out of the house, so she dropped us off at the church at like 6 a.m. for like
Oof.
a 7 o'clock mass, and then after that we'd go to school.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be there so early. We're just messing around in the rectory or whatnot, and we would take some of the hosts. I
Yeah.
think it's called
The
and we would
Eucharist.
the Eucharist. That's right, and we would just eat it like crackers.
Dude.
It was so like I am sanctified, you know.
You've got Jesus coursing through your veins,
You
dude.
know, it's still there. It's still there.
Nothing can stop you. You might as well just be Jesus. That's
Yeah,
what's going on.
I got the long hair going. I'm good.
There you go.
Yeah.
My mom, I remember because I never went to actual catechism school. My mom was the one that basically taught me the whole thing right before my communion, and she found a religious store in Brazil. Brazil is particularly Christian. Like there's a lot of Christ-based religions in Brazil.
Do
And
they
so
have that
you often
Christ the Redeemer statue?
yeah, in
Okay.
Rio and everything. It's very religious. And she found a religious like bookstore that happened to sell like containers of Eucharist. Obviously not blessed, so they didn't mean anything. But I remember she's like, okay, let's practice you receiving the body of Christ. And I would get so fucking pumped because I was like, yeah, I'm going to eat this
Snacks,
delicious cracker.
because it's
Oh,
good.
dude.
It's like a nice little
Yeah.
snack.
It's
Yeah,
thin. It kind of melts in your mouth, and you're like, whoa, cool.
yeah. I just feel it important to say though that like you had the fake stuff. I had the real
Yeah.
shit. My shit
Again,
was legit.
your shit, you're full of Jesus, and I probably may be problem child devil. I think,
Yeah, we already.
honestly, it's probably blasphemy that I was fucking chucking those bodies of Christ without it being body of Christ. So there
You're
you
like
go.
just popping them like there's
Yeah, I'm
shit.
watching my Saturday morning cartoons and be like, Mom, where's the Eucharist? I want a snack.
Throw some milk in there. You got cereal. It's all good.
Hell yeah. Throw some tahini and some hot sauce. That's some delicious chips, man.
Okay, you've gone too far. You have gone too
I will bring the fire.
far. Damien is just like mean mugging these peace loving drafts, but they're not fucking with him. They run off. They're like,
Oh, they
nah,
said, I'm
deuces.
getting out of here.
Yeah. So then they go to see the monkeys. Well, I should say the baboons.
Baboons.
Yeah.
That woman's voice being like, the baboons are extremely dangerous. Close your windows. The baboons are dangerous. The baboons. I was like, okay, ma'am, we get it.
If it's so dangerous, maybe we shouldn't be putting people in this predicament.
Maybe we shouldn't allow cars to be driving through a baboon fucking
Thank you.
enclosure. Like,
Yeah.
guys. Oi.
So, and then elsewhere, Robert is off to work and he sees Father Brennan chilling outside of his house. But again, he doesn't do anything about it or doesn't tell anyone. So, I don't know. He's just fucking up every which way, you know.
Dude, he's got three different stalkers, one a photographer, one a fucking priest. Fucking we got a crazy nanny at the house that is
Yeah,
just making decisions. Like, dude, you need to get with it.
he needs to
Things are
re-examine
going
his life.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
do some figuring out.
So back at this drive-through zoo that they got going on, they're driving among these baboons. Um, when the baboons start to get worked up about the presence of Damien, who's like
Yeah.
loving their attention with this creepy ass smile.
Oh god, he's so creepy in this.
Yeah, but the noises that the baboons are making kind of sound like dogs are barking. It's very
They did
weird.
sound like barks.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I don't know if that's really like I looked it up in the trivia and I couldn't find anything about them like using dog barkings to make it sound more sinister or whatever. But
Right.
it was very weird. They then start to attack the cars. Catherine drives off.
That was scary. Like when
Very
they all
scary.
were like running towards the car, and I was like, I'm waiting. What I was expecting, because we heard that British lady tell us 15 different times, close your windows or the baboons will rip your face off. I was expecting Damien to like roll down a window so that his mom would get attacked. But that
Oh,
didn't happen.
that would have been cool.
I was just waiting for him to do something fucking shitty and shady, but he didn't. And I was like, okay, Damien, well, turns out you're maybe not that bad.
Yeah. So later that night, Robert and Catherine talk, and Catherine doesn't tell Robert what happened at the zoo, but she continues to insist that everything's fine because we are the beautiful people.
Yes. Oh my
Um,
god. I was like Marilyn Manson.
yeah. So she says, but she does say that she wants to see a psychiatrist. So the next day, Robert is attending a rugby match. The photographer is there again, snapping away. Then the father shows up and demands Robert meet him tomorrow, 2:30. And I'm thinking, do you mean 2:30? I feel like it would have been easier if you just said 2:30.
It's so funny because like I have a British dad. Like my dad is Scottish,
Okay,
and so he says half past stuff all the time or
really?
quarter past, and it's like just having to like do the math in your head, like
Yeah,
half past whatever. Yeah. So
I'm not here for math. Just
yeah,
make
I didn't
sense.
go to fucking school for math.
Like the math ain't mathing right here.
Yeah, totally.
So he tells him to meet him tomorrow at 2:30 at Bishop's Park. He says, "Just 5 minutes. Your wife's in danger. She'll die unless you go." Then off he runs. And again, the photographer keeps taking pictures. And what is his? I hope we need to find out what his deal is because
Yeah.
what is his interest in this story? You know?
And again, father, click, 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 click. Thank
Yeah.
you again. I was like, you're too sassy to be doing this.
So later, the photographer is developing the pics, and he again sees that same spear-shaped object in the photo above the priest's head.
Mm.
The next day, Robert meets the father in Bishop's Park, and the father just starts off with this poem. He says, "When the Jews return to Zion and a comet rips the sky and the Holy Roman Empire rises, then you and I must die. From the eternal sea he rises, creating armies on either shore, turning man against his brother till man exists no more." I mean, go off. Like he's spitting. He,
I was like, oh, this is a rhyme. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, I see you. Oh, you're over here. You might as well be like
yeah.
singing a song or something like this.
I wanted Robert to like start beatboxing,
Be like,
just go with him, go with it, you know. Uh, I'll be cutting that out. Just no, but I'm just kidding.
you didn't like my sweet, sweet beatboxing.
I think you were better at
Boochie,
the Latin
boots,
choir.
boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats.
All right, you had me. I'm back in. I'm back in.
Thank you, thank you.
So I feel like if you were talking about this earlier, but I feel like if the priest just worked on his messaging and his branding, he would go a lot further. But he's like stuck on this harbinger shit, and no one could take him seriously.
Yeah, like, dude, you can't come in this hot all the fucking time. Like,
Right.
if you had when you entered his office in the beginning and been like, "Hey, I know this is a little weird, but like, so I'm a priest, as you can tell by my collar, and
Yeah.
like, you know, I know about your baby, and I know that your other baby died. I'm so sorry about that. What a horrible thing to experience. But I kind of think that maybe the baby that you replaced your original baby with is maybe the devil. But like, if you want to just talk about it for a little bit and see how you feel, then maybe we can figure it out. But instead, he's like, the body of Christ, you must eat it. Here's a poem about Zion. It's like,
Your
dude,
wife will die. Like,
your
okay.
wife will die. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we get it.
So the father says that by means of a body wholly under his control will the devil wage his last offensive. So again, Robert's not really here for the shits. He just wants to know what any of this has to do with his PYT, his
Sure.
pretty young thing wife.
Pretty young thing.
So again, the father doesn't answer the question. He just says, "Go to the old town of Megiddo in the old city of Jezreel. There, talk to Bugenhagen." Dude, like, you're not making sense.
You've said 3 different words right now that sound crazy to me.
Yeah.
Megiddo, Bugenhagen, like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, and maybe Bugenhagen is the dude's last name. Maybe his first name is Paul. So just say, go to Jezreel and talk to Paul.
Yeah,
You know?
hello. Also,
Yeah,
you're asking me to go to fucking Israel right now, dude.
right. Talk to my boy Paulie B. He'll get you set up right.
He'll hook you up with your weird baby. I know you're feeling really funky about it, but
Yeah.
don't worry. If you don't want your wife to die, which she might, just you want to be
So,
careful.
yeah. So he says he alone can describe how the child must die. Robert tells him to stop talking crazy and tell him about his wife. The father says that she is pregnant and that he will not, quote unquote, he will not allow the child to be born.
Oof.
So I wonder who's he? Is it Damien? Is it Satan? Then he says he will kill it while it slumbers in the womb.
Oof.
Robert asks who he's talking about, and the father says, "Your son, the son of the devil. He will kill the unborn child and then your wife. Then, when he is certain to inherit all that is yours, he will kill you too. And with your wealth and power, he will establish his counterfeit kingdom here on earth, receiving his power directly from Satan." Me just saying that, reading that back, I felt crazy, you know?
Yeah, dude. Can you I mean, you're just you've made the choice. You're like, okay, this weird priest won't leave me alone. Let me just see what I can do to maybe like feel like just get him out of my periphery. I'll go meet with him. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden again you're met with like even crazier shit than before, and you're just like, now you're stuck. Now you have this person in your life and you're like, what do I do? It's
Yeah,
madness.
yeah. So again, he tells Robert to go to Megiddo and talk to Bugenhagen. And Robert says, "I gave you your 5 minutes. Now listen to me. I never want to see you again." Then the father says, "You will see me in hell, Mr. Thorne." So, okay, all
Okay.
right, all right. So then Robert walks away. And then the wind starts to kick up here. And
Right.
this was really cool because it was like a very wide shot. And I don't know
Mhm.
how they managed to get the wind.
How many fucking fans did they have on set that day? Like,
Yeah,
holy shit. And like the big guys, cuz that they were moving those trees and moving those crazy leaves everywhere. I was like, "Whoa. It looked fucking great." It looked
yeah.
really cool.
The cinematography of this movie is great. Like it's
Gorgeous.
beautifully shot.
Mm.
So the Father Brennan starts running as the wind gets stronger and stronger, and then we hear thunder and rain pours down suddenly. The wind is so strong he struggles to walk against it. A thunderbolt comes down and breaks a tree branch off, and the father, it had me cracking up that the father just split. He just like
Dude, he
booked,
said, "I'm out."
yeah,
He said, "Bye." Pew! And he left a fucking smoke shaped, like his body shaped smoke
yeah.
thing in the
He
behind.
he did one of those Scooby Doo things, but he was
Totally,
like his feet with
totally.
it. It was awesome.
I was waiting for this moment. Like, I was like, oh, is it gonna be a tree branch? Because
Mm.
obviously with the photographer, and because we've seen the photographer developing the pictures, and he does like make a point of showing us this random spear like going through the priest, and I was like, what tree branch is gonna fall and like smash him on the head or what?
Right.
But And so when that lightning bolt hit, it made me jump. I was like, "Oh shit, fuck, what the hell?" And then
Right.
when he pieced out so fucking fast, I was like, "Oh, something's coming. It's coming."
Yeah. And so we hear the Latin chorus again kicking up, and the song that's playing, which was written specifically for the movie, is called Ave Satani, um, which means Hail Satan, and it was
Mm.
written by Jerry Goldsmith, and it actually won the Academy Award for the best original score that
No
year.
way, really?
Yeah,
That makes sense. It's very effective.
and so the chorus is basically, what I said earlier: "Sanguis bibimus corpus edimus, tolle corpus Satani, Ave Ave versus Christus Ave Satani." And in English, it means we drink the blood, we eat the body, raise the body of Satan. Hail, hail, Antichrist! Hail, Satan! So
Wow,
that's what's going
we're
on here.
hailing everyone. Not only Christ, we're hailing Satan too.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Okay.
So that kicks up again. Um, the father runs for a church, or I think it's a cemetery, and but finds the gates are locked, so he has to jump it. After he does, a bolt of lightning comes down right where he just was a couple of seconds ago, and like fries that portion of the
Again,
gate.
I jumped. I was surprised how much I was jumping with these thunderbolts and lightning bolts. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, okay,
Um, I wanted to make a Queen joke there. Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening indeed.
very nice.
Galileo. So from the roof of the church, we see a weather vane blowing in the wind. Then a thunderbolt strikes it, and it breaks it off, and it falls towards the father. He looks up and sees it falling, and instead of like running out of the way,
He
he just
just
stands
stands
there and
there.
screams and goes like, "No!"
Yeah,
I feel like
buddy.
he could have been like, "No." And he could have looked down on his watch and be like, "Is this going to happen anytime soon?" Like
He could have just like done a fucking barrel roll and gotten out of the way, dude.
he could have took a step left or right, front or
Quite
back.
literally.
That's all he needed to do.
Quite literally.
But the spear strikes him, piercing his right shoulder, going all the way through his body and coming out the other end at an angle and piercing the ground, killing him instantly.
This looked really cool to me. This, like, when they pull the shot out and you just see him, like, the fact that he dies standing up was
Mhm.
very effective. I was like, ooh, that's creepy that he's like, because the spear has landed with so much force, like he's been speared to the ground, but he just
Yeah,
happened to be standing when it happens, and he just kind of slumps like his head, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like that." Like why him dying standing up felt weird to me. I didn't understand this, like, "Oh, this is particularly awful." Just him like, "And now I'm dead standing." Ugh, I didn't like it, but in a good way.
yeah. And there's some really great kills in this movie. A lot of
Oh,
great practical
totally.
effects. But and even there's this one death later on that we'll get to that was really could have been gory, but the way they did it wasn't gory, and then it allowed for like there wasn't a lot of blood in there in the movie. It's
I agree. It
yeah,
could have They could have been really like gross with stuff and been it's I love that it's tension and fear that we're feeding off of in this, and like that there's no need to like get crazy with the deaths, but the deaths are still very very effective.
yeah, yeah. I enjoyed it a lot.
Mm.
So as soon as he dies, the weather goes back to normal, and the choir stops singing. The thunder stops. It's just a great scene.
Yeah, totally.
Next, we are in the Thorns' home, and Damien is acting a damn fool, and Catherine has had enough of his shit and calls for Mrs. B to take him from the room.
She was like, this switch, this like moment of her sitting there and having and been like, get this fucking kid out of here. I was like, oh, things are there. The shift is like, you can tell that she is feeling it now. Like, Gregory Peck is walking around and everything is kind of happening to him, and he's the perspective that we kind of are as well. But I love that at this moment you can feel it in her, and she is like something is wrong. Like mother instinct. Like I
Mhm.
can't do this right now and somebody take this fucking kid. And I was like, this is a cool little shift.
Yeah, and she's the one who's bearing the brunt of this decision
Yeah.
that he made, in the movie. So now we're starting to see that because he's at work all day and she's at home taking care of their demon child.
Yeah, he's meeting priests in the park and she's got to fucking deal with this screaming asshole.
Yeah, well, to be fair, she probably sees him only a couple minutes a day, really.
Yeah, she's like, Mrs. B, take him out of here. I gotta fucking get my cocktail at 2 p.m. or whatever.
Um, so she takes him out of the room, and Damien stops long enough to give her the stink eye, which I love.
That stink guy, this kid is fucking professional stink guy.
Yeah. So Catherine says she's not sure what's going on with her. Robert suggests that maybe he should have a talk with Catherine's psychiatrist if this is what he's doing to her. And she agrees and says there's something that he wants to talk, the psychiatrist wants to talk with Robert about anyway. And
You
this is what I'm
pregnant
thinking.
girl.
Yeah, but this is what I'm thinking. Like, why? Like, your psychiatrist, your therapist is yours. Why do I need to talk to them about what's going on with you? It seems very like, I don't know, so weird, like fatherly sort of thing.
It's very the patriarchy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the husband, so the doctor must speak to me so that I know what's going on with my little wife at home, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like she's telling the therapist her like deepest, darkest insecurities, and he's like turning around and telling the husband. I'm
And
like,
he's
that's
like,
terrible.
well, Mr. Thorne, turns out your wife is bipolar. I haven't told her yet, but I thought I'd tell you first because you're the man, because you have a penis. Ugh,
Um, it's really of a different time. So
truly.
she then says that she never wants to have more children, and he agrees. And then she says, "Okay, so you'll agree to the abortion." I just
Ooh.
found out this morning.
I mean, this was shocking to me because of the 1976 factor and like the fact that it was very casual. That she's like, "Oh, okay, so you'll agree with the abortion." And I was like, "Oh, whoa. Okay, the Omen, you're bringing in this conversation and that's pretty interesting." And like the fact that it was it was meant like it was something that it was her choice. She's checking in with her husband, but that she's like, "Oh, okay, you'll be cool with it, then we're going to go ahead and get this abortion and it'll happen." And I was like, "Oh, not bad, the Omen."
Yeah. Well, I checked it out, and Roe. So this movie came out in '76,
Mhm.
and Roe v. Wade was 1973. So it's
So, mhm.
just like 3 years later. So it's really, I think it's. I mean, right now we're still fighting about it, and so I can imagine 3 years
Oh, my
after.
god.
So when Robert hears that, he looks sick, and he's thinking like the father was right, right? He just told him that she was
Dude,
pregnant.
just heard that she's pregnant and he's going to try and kill that kid. And you're just like, can you imagine just coming home and be like, "Honey, I'm pregnant and I want an abortion." You're just like, "Oh my god, dude. What am I what am I involved with right now?"
Right.
That's so crazy.
So then the phone rings, and it's someone telling Robert to read the papers. He opens to find a picture of the priest impaled on the front page. And I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is wrong with people? With people who would put that on the front page of a newspaper?
Dude, dude,
Yeah,
fucked. Totally
yeah.
fucked. Come on, England.
So next we see Robert speaking with Catherine's psychologist, who tells him Catherine's innermost thoughts, which feels like such a betrayal to me.
Totally.
He says she fantasizes that Damien is an alien or that he's evil.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, go with your gut instinct, girl. Molly, you in danger,
Girl.
girl.
Molly, you in danger, girl.
Yeah,
Kick that kid and get it out of here.
do something.
Yeah,
You know,
totally. Tell
you're like.
Mrs. B that she can have him. Bye. Get the both of you get the fuck out of my house.
So the doctor also says that Catherine believes Damien isn't hers. So
Good
with all
instinct.
exactly, so with all that, he believes another child would be disastrous. So he thinks they should have an abortion as well. Robert refuses. He said the doctor asks him why, and he says it was foretold that the pregnancy would be terminated, and he's going to fight to see that it's not. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, okay, so you're believing the Father now? If so, do you believe that Damien is the son of the devil and must
Yeah,
be killed? Like, or are you being selective with what are you believing? You know?
I think it's that one. I think he's being selective because this is more palatable than my son is the child of of Satan. Like my wife being pregnant and maybe needing an abortion is something that I think is easier to grasp than, well, my kid is officially the spawn of the devil. That's a
Yeah,
little tougher.
yeah, that's true. So Robert rushed back home, driving recklessly. Then this scene is terrible. We see
Oh,
Damien on his tricycle in the home, and Catherine is tending to her plants. Damien is just like burning donuts with the trike, kind of like building up steam.
and fucking Mrs. B watching him, like her only her eyes following him in circles. I was like, "Ooh, this girl is fucking creepy, dude." And then
Yeah,
it's almost like she gives him the okay to and opens the door for him to speed down that fucking hallway, dude.
yeah. She's like, once he's built up enough steam, she's like, and go.
And Speedy, what's the guy's name from Cars? Who knows? Owen Wilson. Ka-chow.
So, um, so she lets the door open, and he's on a mission. We hear the squeaky wheels as they get closer to Catherine, who's on a ladder, like attending her plants, right next to a railing. So, like, also not like you're pregnant. Like, what are you? Why are you putting yourself in this situation? Like, obviously, it's
Yeah.
not her fault, but also like risk abatement. Like
Yeah, totally.
Damien crashes into her, which causes her to lose her balance and go over the railing, but she grabs onto it, calling to Damien for help, who's just like looking at her, not making a move to help.
Oh my
Then her
god.
grip weakens and she falls about 10 feet to the floor, and she's knocked unconscious by the fall. And then,
I loved the way this shot looked.
Mhm,
Like you can tell they definitely had her like lying down on a thing and they were like lowering her gently to the ground and like maybe put a fan so her hair would kind of like flop around and stuff. But
yeah,
she's such a glamorous woman that this looked very like it was a very stylized fall. And then they pull away and they show her like lying on the ground unconscious, and the way she positioned her body, I was like, "Oh, that bitch is dead." Like I thought he killed her cuz her neck was one way, her arm was a totally different one. Like she looked fucking contorted and dead. So I was
yeah,
shocked that she lived.
yeah. She was doing like some Bikram yoga shit or something.
Oh
I don't know.
girl, she was doing some stretching, some 70s stretching,
Yeah,
and they said, "Okay, it's going to be very quickly, just hold on." And she's like, "My neck, guys,
yeah.
please."
So Damien looks down on his work and then kind of runs back to his room.
Probably to tell Mrs. B, "Oh my god, she just totally fucking ate it off of that banister. I fucking nailed it. Did you see
Hell
me
yeah.
go?" Ugh, what a dick.
Um, so next, the paparazzi have met Robert at the hospital as he's looking for Catherine. The doctor tells him that she has a concussion and a broken arm and internal bleeding. He says internal bleeding, but she's pregnant. And the doctor says no, she's lost it. Or she says
Uh,
no. They say no, and then he says she's lost it, and he says yes. Again, bedside manner, tableside manner with these doctors. They don't give any. They don't give any
Not a
fucks.
hot fuck. No, that you know he dead. Your baby
Yeah,
dead.
yeah. Maybe
Fuck.
sit down, take a seat so we can talk about it. No, but
Yeah, no. You wanted a glass of water? No. Yeah, fucking listen, your baby died. Who cares? Bye.
this is the second baby that they've had
Yeah.
between
Poor
them.
Gregory Peck.
So although I'm pissed at Robert, I don't think there was anything he could have done about this baby.
No,
There,
absolutely.
well, because there was no time when he talked to the doctor to when this happened. There
Yeah,
wasn't time. Although I guess he could have agreed right away when Catherine first told him about the abortion. Right? He could have been
that's
like,
true.
"Right, let's go." But realistically, I think he needed some time to think about it. So I don't blame him too much. I think this one was foretold. Obviously, it was foretold to
And I
me.
wonder if I mean, I don't know how Satan works and what his rules and regulations are, but I wonder if her getting rid of the baby herself would have been different than like Damien being the one that pushes her over the thing. And because like that's obviously Damien killed this baby,
Yeah.
but you know, if the abortion had been under her control and like the way that, you know, medically correct,
Uh,
then I wonder if that would have made a difference to Satan or not. If he's like, good, that baby's gone, or like, dang it, I wish it was me. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
So,
And now that I think about it, I wonder if they were trying to say something about, because I am, I'm obviously pro-choice, very pro-choice.
hmm
Um, I wonder if they were trying to say something here about pregnancy being or I'm not pregnancy, I'm sorry, abortion being bad, or something like.
I,
I don't know.
I mean, obviously the church is not super pro-choice
Right,
about
right.
stuff like that. So I bet, I bet there's some sort of meaning in there of something or other.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
So then Robert goes to talk to her, to Catherine, and this is when what you said earlier. She says, "What do you
Don't
remember?
let
What she
him
said?"
kill me.
Yeah,
God, it broke my heart because she's waking up out of this like medical coma, it seems like, and her arms in a fucking sling and cast, like she's got a lifted up arm in a cast, and she wakes up and she sees Robert, and he's being very tender to her and like being like, "Hi honey, I'm here, you know,
hmm
what's up?" And the first thing she says is, "Robert, Robert, don't let him kill me." And it's so weak and so tiny and she's so defenseless, and it's like it's heartbreaking, and it's also very scary because you're just like, this kid, he could have done it a little bit more, like a little bit more force or some other thing, or like maybe pushed her faster or something.
yeah.
He could have killed her.
Oh, yeah. I completely think that he was trying to kill her
Yeah, yeah,
along with
yeah.
the baby, but she just landed in a way because she could have snapped her neck. You
Oh,
know.
that, I mean, honestly, again, I'm shocked she didn't the way she
Yeah,
landed.
yeah. So back at home, Robert checks on Damien. As he walks closer to him, he sees that the dog is still there. And
Girl.
he's thinking about waking up Mrs. B, but just then the phone rings. But I thought this was cool because you could barely see the Rottweiler, the dog in the corner. It's very
Literally the
creepy.
tiniest shadow. Ooh, that dog, very creepy. That was a
Yeah,
creepy moment. I like to call those things when in the pod we've said it a few times. Johnny and I came up with the term pocket of terror, where there are corners on screen where it's just darkness and you don't trust what's behind there and what's
yeah,
about to pop out. James Wan, pro at pocket of terror. But like this is a good little pocket of terror because you're like, it's darkness and all you can see and hear is this tiny, or not tiny, this fucking dog growling in the night, and you're like, well, are you gonna jump or what, you dick?
yeah, yeah. It was great. It was really well done.
For sure.
Just in the shadow there. But so
Mm.
then the phone rings. He goes to answer it, and it's Keith Jennings. Then we finally find out the photographer's name who's been following him everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He asks Robert to come to his flat to talk about the death of the priest. And so he goes. And again, why are you trusting it? You just go anywhere you're invited or like told to go.
It seems as though that is the case.
Yeah, I feel like he's left all his ambassador duties behind. He's just now on this, which is obviously the most important thing. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
So I guess he's all in now. At the flat, Keith shows him a picture he snapped of the nanny at Damien's party and asks if he notices anything strange. And then we see a line around her neck that resembles a noose. Then he shows him, so that he or shows the picture of the nanny who she's dead and from that or from the hanging or the
the
suicide.
suicide. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he shows him the picture of the father with the lion impaling him, and then he shows him next the picture of that father actually dying, and the lions kind of line up there.
Right.
So this is where we find out like Keith is like an investigator, a detective. He says he investigated the priest and found out that he was dying of cancer and was high off of morphine most of the time. So this might explain why he was always
Why
coming
he
in.
was like, "Hello, I'm here, and I need to talk to you about the Jesus Christ body."
Like he's just like licking his lips the whole time, like
Yeah, like
gnawing his teeth. It's like Jesus.
just fucking.
Um, like sipping on Mountain Dew or something,
Don't mind my flask, sir. Yes, it is morphine, but I need it.
Yeah. So he even had the pics from the autopsy
Which
because, of
I was like,
course,
how do you have these, dude? Just
yeah,
go into the corner and be like, excuse me, just gonna yoink.
just hey, I just need that real quick. I'll get it right back to you.
Don't you worry. Just gonna make a quick photocopy.
And he noticed that the priest had 666 on his inner thigh,
Mm.
and they think Robert thinks perhaps a concentration camp, but he says no, it was a birthmark. So I feel like they never really truly explained this. I don't
Right.
know, maybe if you caught something, but I don't think they talk about it a little bit at the end, but never why he has
So
the
this
mark.
was I had this question too because I was like, okay, so if he has 666 and eventually we find out that Damien also has 666,
Mhm.
and does that mean that Father, the one that died with the spear, that he was a child of Satan and that he was trying to do stuff too? Like what why do they have similar birthmarks, and is that the reason why when later on we see his room, it's like it's almost as if him becoming a priest and being surrounded by Christian imagery is him containing his own demonic, satanic influences and like innate born with stuff.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
it's never told, is we're never
never
explained
told.
that.
Yeah. So then, as you're saying, they go to his apartment. It's covered in like Bible pages, and apparently they let the police just let the photographer like rummage through all the shit.
They were like, oh, because he was insane, they just let me in. Uh, that's not how police work works.
That's the '70s, baby.
Yeah, dude, do
Yeah,
whatever you want. We're in the 70s.
yeah. Like they're just smoking at the crime scene, like
Oh
moving
my
things
god,
around. Yeah,
touching everything with no gloves. It's
yeah.
ugh, my goodness.
So the photographers found a diary of um, that the priest was keeping of Robert's movements, and
Hmm.
the last entry was of the day that the priest died in Bishop's Park. He also finds a newspaper clipping of a comet changing shape like the Star of Bethlehem 2,000 years ago, but it
Okay.
happened only 5 years ago on June 6th.
Hmm.
The other piece of paper is a birth announcement of Damien, born on 6/6 at 6 a.m. So they're kind of beating us over the head here with this.
Right.
Robert admits his son is dead and he doesn't know whose son he's raising. So this is finally, he's on board. He
Officially.
knows what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so Keith says he'd like to help him out. Robert says no, it's his problem. Keith says it's also Keith's problem, and he shows him a picture that he took of himself with a line bisecting his head from his body, in the
Right.
photograph,
Yeah.
And so you hadn't seen had you seen the death scene later on in the movie? Like I know you seen
No.
like no, okay, all right.
I
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Oh
Okay,
my god, I'm
okay.
so excited.
Okay. So right now, when you saw that, what did you think was going to happen? Like in the
Well,
picture?
it seemed like the way that the whatever it was that was cutting like him in the picture, because it's kind of like a selfie. He's like taking a picture and he's in front of the mirror and he's like looking at it, and it kind of just looks, it didn't look exactly like right by the head. It looked more around the chest. And so I was like, is he gonna get a spear or a thing through him too? Like I couldn't, that's where my brain went. I was like, oh, he's probably gonna get another spear through the body or something like that. So I was wrong.
So next, we're back in the hospital, and Catherine is asking about Damien. Robert says he'll ask Mrs. Horton, a servant of theirs that we've seen a little bit of, to look after Damien. Back at home, Robert is looking for Mrs. Horton, and Mrs. B, again being the B that she is,
God, she's a bee.
says that they've gone and left an address to send the last month's wages. And I'm thinking, wait, month? We're getting paid once a month here? Like,
I
I
mean,
don't. I couldn't survive. It would be over for
yeah,
me.
I think because they probably lived in that house, because
Yeah.
usually when you have that big of a mansion, your like servants, I guess, would stay in your home until they like had a weekend off and got to go to their regular house and be like, oh shit, this I live in this dump instead of
Yeah.
that fucking mansion. So
Yeah. Um, so this is where Robert is wearing that amazing green crushed
oh,
velvet sports
beautiful,
jacket. Just
gorgeous.
love it. Mrs. B says she can manage all on her own, but Robert is suspicious, but he lets her get away with it. But he says he will follow up with the Hortons, but again,
Never
never
does.
does. Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if fucking Mrs. B was like, good night, and just stabbed both those Hortons into death and was like, see ya, thanks so much for visiting Satan.
Yeah,
Bye.
I thought we were gonna see some sort of like Michael Myers body revelation sort of thing that they
Yeah,
did,
yeah, yeah.
but we didn't see that. So maybe they had it with her and they're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm out.
Oh,
Or
she
maybe
was
they
saying
saw the
weird
writing on the
stuff.
wall, you know?
Oh yeah, those two. Let's get an origin story of the Hortons too, where they're just like they're the outside eye watching everything go down, and they're like, "Yeah, I think maybe we should leave this house because that little boy has been staring at the wall and writing 666 over and over in the corner, and I don't like that. So let's leave."
Okay, so origin story of Mrs. B, origin story of the Hortons, and then I'd like an origin story of the dog, because where'd
Oh
that come from?
yeah. Let's
So,
see what the deal is with that fucking Rottweiler.
and
When
actually,
was he a happy puppy, and then when did the devil enter his puppy body and
yeah.
like all that
Oh
stuff.
no, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard, Eileen.
Sweet bean.
Yeah.
Oh, I there is one thing I will say this that I thought about watching this movie. Uh that I there's something about seeing dogs played as like demon characters or devil related that I just don't care for, where
Mhm.
I'm just like, I understand shitty dogs, but for the most part they're shitty because of how they've been treated, and
Mhm.
like, why don't make dogs bad people, please don't make
Yeah.
dogs demonic, or cats, and animals in general, let them just be animals, don't put the devil in the animals, guys, come
Yeah,
on.
there's no bad dogs, they're just bad owners, you know?
Correct.
And I always love to see it. You see it mostly in like 70s and 80s movies, but
Yeah.
you'll see like an attack of a dog, like a dog attacking a human, but you can tell that the dog is really just playing.
Oh my god, have you okay, there's a great fact
Okay.
on somewhere I was reading that dogs in film usually have to have their tails CGI'd on, because when they're on set and they're acting, quote unquote,
Yeah.
they're like doing their job, so that makes them happy, and so they're always wagging their tail where then
Oh,
they're on
that's
screen,
awesome. I
so
love
they can't they usually have to either not film their butts or
it.
they
Mhm.
have to CGI their tails so that they're not wagging.
So now I'm thinking that their tail is green screened. Just like,
Just a sweet little a
yeah,
tube sock, a green tube sock on that tail, and
I love it.
then yeah.
I love
Also, this has nothing to do with this movie,
it. Okay.
but I was listening to something on The Thing, and John Carpenter was talking about the dog and how uh when he walked into the space that the men were living in The Thing, where the dog kind of like is, remember, he goes down the hallway and he's looking for somebody to, quote unquote, spoiler alert for The Thing, everybody, infect,
Yeah.
and that the dog, they did 3 takes because the dog was so good, and that first one was the dog turned and looked right at the camera and then over to the room where he was going to go in. The dog did it on his own without even trying, and he
Mhm.
was fucking awesome. And John Carpenter was like, one of the best actors I've ever worked with in my life. Which made me love John Carpenter even more.
Yeah, that grumpy puss. He's such a
I know.
grump.
And I also a grumpy gamer. I love that he plays video games too. What a nerd. I love
Yeah.
it so much.
I love the second act he's had in his life, like being
A
about
DJ.
like a DJ, and he's like a grumpy gamer. He's smoking weed all the time. I love it.
Bless him. But I didn't know that he goes on tour, like to play his music. Did you know
Oh,
that?
I'm telling you, like he came to Austin, and I fucking missed it. And I'm so pissed about it. But yeah, like he's released albums like Lost Themes, I think it's called, and they're
Sure,
so
sure.
good. It's so good. Yeah,
I think that's so cute that he's
yeah.
like, all right, gotta go on tour, play my cool electronic music that I play. Like, what? John Carpenter, come on.
I don't know if you've heard of Goblin, but Goblin is an Italian band that
Uh
has
huh,
been,
uh huh.
yeah. So they do the same thing. They kind of travel and play their soundtrack. So they
Love
can,
that.
yeah. So I missed that as well. So I'm sad about that. But
Guys, come back on tour. The world
hell
is
yeah,
better, is getting better. Let's go see John Carpenter.
yeah, that'd be awesome. He then mentions that he saw the dog, that it's still there last night, and she interrupts him and says, "He's gone now. They've taken him away."
Hmm.
Okay, all right. Let that be the last
Okay,
time.
girl. If you say so.
Later, we see that Robert and Keith have flown to Rome to investigate further. They go to the old hospital but find that it was burned down 5 years ago. They find that a new hospital has been built there, and they go inside. And he asks a nun if there were any records that survived. He says that he adopted a child there, but the nun says that there were never any adoptions there.
No adoptions. There are no adoptions here. I was like, this lady, this very non Italian woman that they hired to be this Italian nun, she's like, oh, he don't live here. She might as well have said, it's a me, Mario, because it was that Italian accent
It was a
was
very thick
hilarious.
accent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Keith comes and says that it's no use. The fire actually started in the Hall of Records. So they then ask if the father that he made the deal with was still around, and the nun says, "Oh yeah, Padre Spiletto." So he's in a monastery in Frosinone. He was a victim of the fire, but he survived, and so they took him to this monastery. And she says he may be dead now, but he survived the fire. So they go to visit him at the monastery. It's out in the country. Keith finds the poem while they're driving there. Keith finds a
Mm,
poem that Father Brennan recited to Robert about the Jews returning to Zion. That's in his
right.
diary.
The
Keith says,
beatboxing.
yeah, Keith says it makes sense that the Jews have returned to Zion, meaning the Jews have Jerusalem. You know, they have
Right.
that state or country. Sorry, and then also there was a comet 5 years ago that, as we learned further, was like the Star of Bethlehem 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And then there's the formation of the common market with the Treaty of Rome. And this is where he says scholars agree that that could mean that that's the rise of the Holy Roman Catholic Empire.
This was
A stretch.
this was interesting. I was like, this explanation of the poem and like breaking down what each line meant. Like
Mhm.
when he says that the eternal sea or whatever, and that means politics. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Okay, I guess. Sure, why not? It was very I felt like they were kind of grasping at straws here, but sure, why not?
yeah. So yeah, the eternal sea, meaning the world of politics. So the devil's child will rise from the world of politics. So the verses that Father Brennan quotes about the quote unquote eternal sea are non-biblical, and they were written specifically for the movie. Um,
Oh, I mean that makes sense. I was
yeah,
like, the nothing in the Bible really rhymes this way.
yeah. Um, so they make it to the monastery in a beautifully lush Italian hillside. It looks absolutely
Gorgeous.
amazing.
Just gorgeous. The
They,
sheep, all the sheep that they had
yeah.
to go through.
They enter the church where it is full of like praying monks, and Robert's looking through them all, trying to find Padre Spiletto. He finally sees him, but as he gets closer, he sees that half of his face has been horribly disfigured in the fire.
That eyeball freaked me out. It
It's
was
a bit droopy for my taste.
it looked a little melty inside too.
Yeah,
I was like, that looks like a soft s'more marshmallow. Like that's funky. I don't like it in a good way.
it's reminding me. It's giving me cropsy from the burning.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, and the padre seems to not be aware of his surroundings.
Right.
So they speak to the other monks about Spoleto. They say that his mind is active, but he has not spoken since the fire.
Mm.
They say they take care of him and pray for his soul because he abandoned Christ. Spoleto told them himself. They say he still has some movement in his left hand and he's able to draw some figures. He drew himself and the number 666. And they say that the 666 represents the diabolical trinity, the devil, the antichrist, and the false prophet.
Mm.
So they say for everything holy, there's something unholy. I like that. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
I
Like
mean, it
yin and
makes,
yang going on.
yeah, totally light and dark, all
Yeah.
that stuff. It's very true.
Pocket of terror.
You know, a pocket of terror and what would be, and a hat of joy. I
Okay.
couldn't think of what would be
Oh,
the
the
opposite of a
opposite.
pocket.
Okay.
A hat of joy.
So Robert speaks to Spoleto, asking him where the child came from. Then he begins yelling at him, begging for an answer. Then they put the pen in his left hand, which I don't know if you know, the left hand is known as the sinister hand.
Sinister. La
Uh-huh.
siniestra.
Uh-huh. And he manages to scribble Servette, which is an old cemetery 50 kilometers north of Rome. And the road trip continues. And I feel
It's a
like,
this is a buddy comedy now.
yeah, now it's just like they're on an adventure.
Yeah, totally.
I just love the way that Spoleto looks with his makeup, with the
It's
practical
really, it was
effects.
really good. Like the face prosthetic and the goopy gross eye looked wonderful. I was like, solid gross fucking comatose priest you got here.
Yeah. So later they arrive at the cemetery and have to jump over the gate to enter. They're in the cemetery at night, and I'm like, maybe this could have waited. I don't know.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
silent. Yeah, I'm not going into the cemetery night.
no, thank you. Not at all.
Well, actually, I think I've been in cemetery night, but in this situation, I would have waited.
Yeah, if I'm investigating the devil, I'm not
Yeah,
going to go into the cemetery at night.
yeah.
Sorry.
So it's silent except for the crickets. The crickets are very loud, but then all of a sudden the crickets stop and we hear twigs snapping as
Mm,
if someone or something were there following them.
mm,
That was really done well.
yes.
So then they wander around, not sure what they're looking for, until Keith finds something. It's a gravesite for Maria Sciana, who died June 6th, 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Then they brush off the debris from the grave next to that one, and it says Bambino Sciana, infant boy with the same date. Then they hear a dog panting, but they don't know where it's coming from. So
This view that we see of them, the two men over these two graves, and we're hearing this panting, and then the camera shot is very much like somebody is watching them as they're doing this grave investigation,
yeah,
and they're far enough away, but still like moving, and the twigs breaking, and like it feels so ominous and creepy. It was very effective. I love this part.
yeah, it was like the atmosphere that they built here. It's
Totally
great.
brilliant.
So Robert questions whether his son is buried here, and he wonders why they would bury him in this old ass cemetery. They then pry the cover off the mother's grave, and they see the skeleton of an animal. That's the jackal.
We're going to remove the pin from earlier. The
Let's do
pin
it.
has been removed.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I saw this and I was like, because we have had so much dog stuff going on, like we had
Yeah,
the Rottweiler, and at this point we're in the cemetery, and we have seen like a few like dogs watching them, and we hear the panting and whatever. I was like, so did somebody replace? In my mind, I thought somebody had replaced the body of this woman with a dog, uh,
okay.
skeleton, but that's because I didn't understand at the beginning when he came in hot yelling about, oh, it turns out she was a jackal, and I was like, so it didn't land as strongly for me, like, to see this. I wish I had understood that that in the beginning when he said she's a jackal, that I had put two and two together, because
Mhm.
that's fucking creepy as hell, dude. To have
Yeah,
a baby be born out of a fucking, now what's a jackal? A dog of some sort? Like a wild dog, I think?
yeah. It's some sort of like
Like
it's
a
in the canine family.
hyena-esque,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, awful, terrifying. Can you
yeah,
imagine a fucking animal giving birth to a fucking baby? That's crazy.
yeah. But so to me, I'm thinking, what was the process like? Was it sort of like Jesus and Mary, where God just like put the baby to Jesus, into Mary, or like did the devil actually have sex with the jackal? Like,
Yeah, like
it's
what's the
terrifying, it's
process?
horrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, no, I thought something came flying into my brain and then it escaped and I can't remember anymore.
the jackal took it and ran.
The jackal said, "It's mine now."
So they're horrified by what they see and they drop the lid, which falls and shatters.
Yeah.
Robert needs to see what's under Bambino's lid. So they pry it off, and we see the skeleton of an infant, like you were saying earlier, and
Mhm.
possibly with its skull cracked. I don't know baby skulls. I don't know if baby skulls are fully formed or whatever.
I think that's what we were supposed to gather, because there
Okay,
was like a weird like uh, ridge on the cranium of the baby, and that's when he was like, they murdered my kid. So
right.
here's my question to you. So if Father Scapino, what's his name? Father
Let's go with that.
Father Stiletto, if he was if he was the guy that was like, "Hey, you want this weird baby?" Yeah, yeah. Does that mean that he's the one that murdered Gregory Pex's baby?
Yeah, I think totally. Oh
And
shit! Yeah.
yeah, right?
Oh, I didn't even make the so he just Gregory Peck, or Robert was just talking to the man who murdered his child.
And did he renounce Jesus, like, cuz obviously he apparently he did it that day, that the 6th of the 6th at 6 a.m. Does that mean that he renounced Jesus when he killed this baby, when the jackal was giving birth to the baby? What, like, I would love to know another, let's get another
Origin
origin
story.
story with Padre Stiletto and
Yeah.
what his deal was.
All right, I think we're up to four now. But
Yes, so many Omen fucking branches. We're
well,
gonna have a full franchise.
I was going to say earlier that there was a TV show that ran for a couple seasons, like 2 seasons, called Damien, but I never saw it.
I remember that, and I also did not see it.
Yeah. Maybe some of our questions
I
were answered
I
there. You know.
bet somebody was like, "Okay, let's talk about Father Stiletto and how he gave up Christ."
Yeah. But also I had a question, like, did they just drop these bodies in these holes? Like, there were no caskets. Like,
Very
it's
true.
only been
Like,
5 years. It's not like they
yeah,
have a
this
lot to lose.
wasn't like 1932, like, or even 1866. Like, what's the deal? Where's the casket?
And then also, why go to the trouble of burying them? Why not just dispose of the bodies? Like, was that part of the ritual or something? Did they need to be
Yeah, what
buried?
was the
It's weird.
deal? Did the jackal have to be close to the ground, or
Yeah.
what's the jam?
So then they see that they're surrounded by Rottweilers and they have to leave immediately. They kind of like back out, but they're attacked. They're like besieged on all sides by these
Dude,
dogs. They're getting fucked up by these
fucked
Rottweilers.
up by the dogs, dude.
Yeah, yeah. And Robert manages to escape and crawl over to the fence, but he impales his arm on the spear at the top. This is gnarly looking,
It was
and
gnarly.
we don't actually even see anything. It's just our mind making us see it, because we're just seeing like his sleeve is kind of caught.
But you kind of can see the top of like the spear
Oh,
on
coming
the
out.
top of
Yeah,
his
yeah,
arm.
yeah.
You know what it made me think of? It made me think of in the end of Hot Fuzz, when when the bad guy in Hot Fuzz is running. They're running through that little makeshift town, and he
Yeah.
trips and he falls, and the steeple of the mini church goes through his fucking chin,
Yeah.
and like through the mouth. That's what it made me think of, but like in his arm.
Yeah. Or have you seen Halloween 2018?
Yes.
Well, so that spoiler alert again.
Spoiler alert,
That
gang.
kid who gets like impaled by
Oh yeah, dude.
through the mouth.
Fucked. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Keith also manages to escape and helps free Robert. Then they get back in the car and drive away. Robert calls Catherine and tells her she has to leave London. Oh, this is so sad.
Ugh.
They have to leave London. He says that he's going to send somebody from the embassy to pick her up and take her to Rome. She doesn't understand, but she agrees, and she's getting ready. As she's getting ready, she attempts to take off her gown, but it gets stuck. And
On her
just
cast, that's a crazy lifted arm cast.
yeah, like she's man, I feel so sorry. She, like I said, bared the brunt of all the bad shit that happened because of Robert's decision.
Yeah.
Um, so she can't take it off. It's stuck, and just then somebody enters, and we see it's Mrs. B,
the most terrifying woman on the planet,
smiling this wretched smile as she advances on Catherine, and Catherine is terrified and helpless to do anything. Obvious Satanic kicks in here again. We then switch to the outside of the hospital as we hear the window break, and we hear Catherine screaming as she's thrown from the window and lands on an ambulance, dead as soon as she landed.
I loved the process of this shot. Like her being like trapped under her robe, the terrible smile of this horrible woman that we know she's here to murder her. And then we get a shot of two little nurses outside the hospital, I don't know, cigarette break or whatever, and they look up and we see her flying out, and like the stunt double is like literally somersaulting through the air, and
Yeah.
she goes through the ambulance, like bam. And when she falls through the force of the hit opens the back doors of the ambulance, and it's her lying there dead. I was like, what a great like flow of this moment. And it was a fucking bummer, dude, because I was like, oh, they're gonna fucking kill her. I knew she was gonna die. I knew it, and I didn't want it, but
Yeah.
she did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, justice for Catherine, because she didn't deserve
Justice for Catherine.
Yeah. So finally, Robert gets a call that Catherine is dead, and he finally breaks down. Like he's had two
Poor
children die on him.
Now my
and
wife.
Not one tear, and then his wife dies, and finally he breaks down. So we see Keith arriving at the hotel that they're sharing, telling Robert he found out about the town of Megiddo. And it's derived from the word Armageddon. I feel that's a little too cutesy, but okay.
Agreed. And also, I just want to say, they went through a whole rigmarole when fucking Father What's His Dick was like, go to Megiddo, it's in Israel, that's where you'll find out how to kill this kid. And the first thing you should have done when you finally officially were on board, like, yes, my child is the devil, the first thing you should have done is gone to Megiddo, and not to like Rome and Italy and all this other bullshit. No, bitch, go to Israel, find out how to kill your kid, and get it over with. And now your wife is dead, and you gotta still go to fucking Israel, dude.
That's true. I mean, they're just fucking around. They fucked around and found out, like they was wasted precious time,
Precisely.
So Megiddo is about 60 miles south of Jerusalem. Robert remembers the name Bugenhagen, and Keith says, "Oh yeah, I know him. He's an exorcist. He's heard of him." Like, how has he heard of an
How convenient.
exorcist? What?
Yeah.
What is this walking plot device that is Keith?
What is the job that this man has? He is a man of all trades, Renaissance man. Like, geez.
Yeah. So he tells Keith that Catherine has died, and he wants Damien to die also. So.
Ooh, I loved that little moment of him, Robert curled up on his pillow, and you just see it's like a close up of his face, and he's like explaining what's going on, and then him saying, Catherine is dead. and Damien is going to die too. And I was like, ooh, bitch. Because finally, like, get with it. You fucked with
Yeah,
your wife, and now you gotta kill your kid, bro.
yeah, and it's not his kid. He just has to get that through his head.
Exactly. Get it out of your head. Kill that kid. Fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids. Yeah. So they've traveled to Jerusalem to Megiddo, and they meet Bugenhagen. He tells them this is the place where Christianity began. He asks if the priest has died yet, and Robert tells him yes. So I'm not quite sure which priest he's talking about, but I think we're talking about the original priest. I'm forgetting his name right now. Sorry, Dr. Brennan. So
Sure, sure.
here we go. All right. So then Bugenhagen excuses Keith, saying this is for Robert's eyes only. Keith goes exploring while Bugenhagen and Robert speak. He says it must be done on hallowed ground, and it has been done in a church. And his blood must be spilled on the altar of God. He offers him a knife, and he says that this knife extinguishes physical life. The next couple of knives extinguish spiritual life, and that they should radiate outwards to form a cross.
Mm.
He says that this is not a human child, so don't feel bad about doing it. Robert asks for proof. Is there any proof? And Bugenhagen says, yes, there is proof. He bears a 666 birthmark.
Sign of the beast.
Sign of the beast. Robert says he's bathed the boy. He knows every inch of the body. There is no sign. Bugenhagen says, then it's underneath the hair. So right there, Robert's like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
Now I gotta shave my kid's head.
Then Robert asks about Mrs. B, and Bugenhagen says she's an apostate of hell. She will die before letting Damien get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be great because we're about to see that shit. Later, Keith wants to know what he said, what Bugenhagen said, and Robert tells him that Bugenhagen wants him to murder the child, but he refuses. Still, he's fighting it. He refuses to kill Damien, and he throws the knives away. And here's the great scene.
Dude.
Keith says if he doesn't do it, he will. He will, and he goes to collect the knives. And as he's doing that, a truck that was improperly parked kind of rolls back. And do you want to explain what happens here?
So it's almost like a construction site, it seems, and on the back, on the bed of this truck, there are glass panes or like sheets of construction material.
Yeah.
And so as the photographer is on the ground collecting these like legit daggers and putting them in a fucking little cloth, the truck comes down, crashes into something, having the glass pane fly off and chop this motherfucker's head off. And that head goes flying. And like the rest of the material also like falls onto the rest of his body. And I was like, holy, I didn't see this coming at all. I was like, when I saw the truck coming down, I was like, oh my God, he's just, I guess, just gonna get run over or something like that. But when that head pops off, I was like, oh shit, it looked so good. And then having it land, and it wasn't, you could tell this was actually the actor's head. They were like, we're just gonna make everything around you really dark so it looks like it's just your head landing.
Yeah.
He like goosh, like does a little boom boom kind of so that the head is hitting, but it's so well done that you're like, oh, that's the fucking head landing on the ground. It was so good, so good.
And they even like show the head being chopped off like 3 or 4 times in slow motion.
From different angles. So great. Like rolling, like legit in the air, fucking turning. So good.
Looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great practical effect. Love it.
Absolutely. So much. Great kill.
So Robert cannot believe his eyes, but now he knows what he has to do. And the actor who played Keith, who just got killed right here, his name is David Warner. He kept his severed head for many years after the movie. until his divorce when his ex-wife obtained custody of it.
Oh
How petty do you have to be to take
no!
that head?
Fucked, dude. That's not cool. Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
And
So
also, my own little piece of trivia, he was a professor in Scream 2.
really,
Yeah.
okay. It's been so long since I've seen any of the Screams, so I definitely have to go back and watch them.
You'll see if he's like, "Oh, yes, theater or whatever," cuz I think that's what what's her name was learning.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So we see him on the plane ride home. We see Robert on a plane ride home holding the knives. And I'm thinking that shit wouldn't fly nowadays. He wouldn't get past security.
I think that was a private jet though.
Yeah, that doesn't say. Like, what a life
Mhm.
this fucker leads. He's just
Ambassador baby.
jet setting, literal jet setting across the
Li-
world, you know?
Rome, Israel, England, literally all on my
America.
private plane. Like, fuck it.
It's crazy.
Hmm.
So he arrives back home and hears the Rottweiler. And I'm thinking, did he ever get antibiotics for those dog bites? Because, like, I've been bitten by dogs. You need to.
Also,
Oh, and
the
also
the spear through the arm.
yeah, he needs to get those attended to really quickly.
Yeah, buddy.
Um, so the dog is like slowly looking for him in the house. So they play like this cat and mouse thing in the
I like
house. It's
this.
so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
really
really cool.
cool.
And we hear this soft like Latin choir chanting. It's very
Mm,
suspenseful. We get a great shot of the dog patrolling the hallway with some great lighting as well.
so good.
And Robert manages to close the door behind the dog so that he can't attack him. So he's effectively taken the devil dog out of the equation. He enters his bedroom and
Mm.
he's thinking about Catherine. He goes up to their bed and is like wistfully thinking about her. And then he goes to his side table, or I don't know what those are
Night
called,
table.
night table, and he takes some scissors. And we're like, uh oh, what's he going to do with these?
Yeah. I was like, stab her,
Stab,
stab the woman, stab her, get her out
Yeah.
of here.
So he closes the door that's joining Mrs. B's room to
Kill
Damien's
her
room.
first.
Yeah.
Kill her first.
Well, he still has.
He still
I'm with
doesn't
you
know,
there.
like, I haven't seen the 666 yet. I don't know
Yeah.
if this could still be a child. I'm thinking about killing a child. This is madness. Either way, kill her first.
Yeah. So he goes over to Damien and starts cutting his hair, and he's looking for the 666 birthmark, which he eventually finds
Mm,
in like this really great slow reveal.
yeah.
But I'm thinking, how does that kid not wake up from that? You know, I don't know.
That is a deep sleep on that kid, dude.
Yeah.
He is chopping off. He's like snip, snip, snip. Like, and before he snips, he's like manhandling his head to try and find the fucking
Get over here.
666.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Do you do Reddit at all?
Yes.
There's a subreddit called "Just Fuck My Shit Up," where people submit like pictures of really bad haircuts.
Haircuts? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so we
I'm
could
gonna
take
look
Damien's
for that.
picture. Yeah, it's
Great.
great.
Yeah. Hi, can I get this haircut? It's just a big 666 on the top of your head.
After realizing that he now has to kill Damien, suddenly Mrs. B screams out "No!" and jumps on Robert's back and starts
Ooh,
trying to claw his eyes out and
crazy.
scratching him. She gets him in a chokehold at one point and like yells for Damien to run.
Mm.
And I'm like, does this bitch know Krav Maga or something? Like she is
Like
going
that,
all out.
she's taken some wrestling classes or something because that hoe is ready to fucking power slam that guy.
Meanwhile, the Rottweiler is barking like crazy downstairs, anxious to get a little taste of Richard.
Sure, but sorry, you got tricked, homie. You got tricked and chucked into the basement. So, see ya.
Damien runs and hides in a corner. Robert has managed to knock Mrs. B off of his back, but then she bites him in the leg.
Yo,
She going
she was
all out.
fighting. Like that
Yeah,
bitch was scrappy, like going
like
for it.
in any other like horror movie, if you think about it, a man is trying to kill a child and a woman is trying to save that child. Like she would be the hero of this story, you know.
Absolutely, but the devil.
I love how they're playing with that like trope, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But then he kicks her off, and then he grabs Damien and tries to leave. Robert trips and falls as they're descending the stairs, He grabs. I love it. He like grabs
Yeah,
Damien.
he
He's like,
is dragging that kid. It's a
drag him,
he
drag
drag
him.
him, drag him. He is fully pulling that little kid's arm. I was like, fuck, dang. He is sweeping the floor of that mansion with that kid's pajamas. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but again, Mrs. B comes out of nowhere and attacks Robert. They tussle again. She grabs the knife, and so does he. And he manages to stick the knife in her neck. And as she
Oof.
dies, oh, I'm sorry, she dies, and we hear the dog like howling horribly.
How?
So then Robert gets Damien in the car and rushes from the house, bypassing the local police that's set up outside. When he does, the police call it into the station and starts his pursuit for a possible diplomatic incident.
I mean, he could have known. I mean, he has spent a good chunk of time being the ambassador. He could have like driven calmly and be like, "How's it going, Alfred?" or whatever the cop's name was, and be like, "Oh, top of the morning to ya. Good day, sir," or just be like, "Hey, have a good night," and then not have to be pursued by the cops for driving 1,000 miles per hour. But
Right.
I guess when you really are desperate to kill Satan's kid, you got to do it immediately.
Yeah, because I was thinking he could have just stopped, but then like Damien would have been yelling, and I don't know.
Sure.
I think he was probably crazed out of his mind at that point.
Yeah, he was like, "I just killed a woman. I gotta go."
So Damien is yelling the whole time. Robert makes it to the church, and he grabs Damien, who's like yelling at the top of his lungs, and he's fighting, being in the church. But he finally gets into the altar and he pulls out the knives and he starts to plunge the first one. But Damien says,
No, Daddy, please, Daddy, Daddy, please, no, no, Daddy. I was like, "Oh, you little thing, you're so cute, but you're also so good at being so creepy."
yeah. So he almost can't do it. And so he moves Damien's face away from him and
Good
raises the
call.
knife. Just then, the police arrive and tell him to stop or they will open fire. He stops for a second, but then he goes to plunge the knife in. And as he does, they open fire. And we see like one slow motion bullet leaving a chamber, you know?
I genuinely was like, "Fuck, dude," because I was so hoping that he would get that fucking knife in that kid, but you know,
At this point, we don't know if he's like, we
is
know
he
that
if
he got
he's lived
shot.
or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know if he's succeeded in killing Damien. So next, we're at a funeral. It's with full military honors. And then we see two caskets. The military is playing taps, and there's cameramen there, and they're folding the flag. It's like a really nice funeral. Next, we see Secret Service agents say, "Excuse me, Mr. President, when you're ready to leave, your car is right over there." But we're only seeing the back of the president's and first
Hmm.
lady's head. And I was going to look up who the president was in '76. Do you know? I think let me look that up.
Nixon? I'm gonna say my guess is Nixon.
Gerald Ford.
Dang it!
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I don't know if they're like trying to be
I mean,
Gerald
that
Ford or
definitely
not.
Gerald Ford wasn't he bald by that time? I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go ahead and say this is a fictional president.
yeah. I think so also. So then the camera pans down, and we see they're holding a child's hand between them. Then obviously Satani kicks in, and the child looks back, and it's Damien, and he's looking serious as hell. But then he cracks a cheeky
Ooh, that
little
little
red smile.
smile. And
Yeah.
also, what I loved was this is the iconic Omen outfit. Like we never
Oh
see
yeah.
the little hat and the little and until this moment. And I know it like I know that the Omen is creepy and horrible, whatever, all that stuff. Little kid wearing little suits and whatever, but that little hat is like the outfit of the Omen.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
So what did you think when you saw that they were holding hands? They were holding Damien's hands.
I wasn't expecting him. I I kind of figured that uh Damien would have stayed alive.
Mhm.
Uh but I didn't expect that the president of the United States was the one who was going to get to keep fucking Damien.
Yeah,
Like, and I mean, I guess it was established at the top, like, oh, Robert's very good friend is the president of the United States. That's the reason why he got this job. But like, I thought it was a very, and obviously, again, eternal seas means that the politics and the whole point is that Damien is going to be raised through political purposes or whatever. So I thought, like, wow, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that they they were like, let's just give him to the president, man. I think that's a great idea. So,
Yeah. So then the shot fades. Then we see a Bible verse. It says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." Book of
mhm.
Revelations, chapter 13, verse 18. And then Ave Santana plays us out. So, I
Man.
mean, what a movie.
And what's funny is Johnny and I, we were like, we still kind of do our movie club every now and then, and I was
Mhm.
like, how about we do the Omen, cuz there's like 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
And I said, and besides, I got to do I got to do Miguel's podcast, so why don't we do the Omen, and then I could watch the first one, and then we could do like the rest of them. So now that I've watched the first one, I'm really curious to see what number 2 is all about. And is the president still involved? What happened to Mrs. B? Did she fully die or does she return? Do we get some backstory on everybody else? What's going to happen, Omen 2? And I'm excited to see what goes down.
Yeah, I know that in one of them, he's like a grown kid, and I think he's played by Sam Neill or something like that.
Oh, yes. I remember seeing pictures of Sam Neill involved in one of the Omens, but I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you which one and what who he plays or whatever. But
Yeah.
always thrilled to see Sam Neill in any form, so that'll be exciting to get to.
Love me some Sam Neill.
Oh yeah,
Um,
him and his farm in New Zealand and his pig. Oh my god, the best.
so I just want to say that the original ending had all three members of the Thorne family killed at the conclusion, but one of the studio heads felt that this was a mistake. He says, after all, the devil is impossible to kill, he reasoned. So he
Mm.
subsequently gave the director, Richard Donner, the additional funds necessary to shoot a more open ending to the film.
I think
So,
that was the smarter turn to
yeah,
do.
I agree. I really love this ending.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the movie. So what did you think of The Omen?
I fucking loved it. I loved how creepy it was, that it didn't think too much of itself. I'm a pretty big I've we watched all of the Exorcists in our movie club, and so I think it's really fun, like the juxtaposition of like heaven and hell, Jesus and the devil and all that stuff. I think including a child is always fun. I mean, look at Linda Blair and like the performance of a lifetime. And it is it does always become particularly extra scary when you involve the innocence of a child. Um and the fact that to be able to manipulate that innocence is really it's very good and effective in a horror movie. The performances are brilliant. Visually it's gorgeous. That little kid is fucking great. Gregory Peck, everybody, fucking Mrs. Baylock, she's terrifying. I mean, honestly, on in the back of my head, I'm like, this is a great Halloween costume. Like, if you can get that hair correct,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Oh, I thought
Um,
I thought you were gonna say also like Damien's costume, like his little.
Damien's costume also a great couple's costume. If you get like a tiny little like shorts and like a little suit and fucking hat, and then have somebody be dressed up as Nanny Baylock, killing it. Or have her like couple's dog costume maybe, and just carry your Rottweiler
Hell
along
yeah,
along with her.
that's good.
Great, perfect.
Even if you had a small like little Chihuahua
Yeah,
dog.
just get a teeny tiny dog and just put like a sign that says Rottweiler on it, and then boom, you have it.
Okay, so Eileen, what we do here is we rate the movies out of 5 upside down crosses.
Okay,
So
love it.
So, what would you give this movie? And it could be, based like a horror movie or just a regular movie, however you feel you want to rate it.
I think as a regular movie, I'd give this five upside down crosses. I think it's a smooth ride all the way through. It's not too spooky. Like there's enough spooks in there for you to be like, "Ooh, I'm unnerved," but it's nothing that like fucking Joe Schmo that is afraid of everything couldn't handle, I don't think. I think
Mhm.
for baby horror nerds, this is a great introductory film, you know what I mean? And if I were to rate it in a horror movie venue, I'd I'd give it 4 upside down crosses just because I feel it does lend itself more into like a drama film. There is so much more uh relationship issues and like a lot of finding out, discovery, investigative kind of moments. um but that doesn't mean that that fucking bitch isn't terrifying, that the dog in the pocket of terror isn't fucking scary, and like
Mhm.
fucking that suicide in the beginning, all of that, it all works very very beautifully. So 9 9 upside down crosses.
For you, I'll let it stand. I'll let it
Thank
stand.
you. Thank you. 9 upside down crosses.
Uh,
If you divide 9 by 3, that's 3
six, six,
that's
six.
that's 3 threes, which means 3 plus 3 is 6. Eventually, we're going to get there.
There you go.
666.
There you go. So you give it 666 out of five. Out of
I'll
five.
give it 666.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you. I really love this film. I found it really surprising. It had been a while since I've seen it. How much I really loved it. It's a classic horror movie.
Absolutely.
Some great stuff in there. There are some pacing issues. There's some stuff that we repeat over and over that doesn't need to, like you pointed out, going to Rome when you could have just gone to Jerusalem based on what the father told you earlier.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit. I mean, it was a long too. It was like an hour 50. They
Yeah, it
could
was
have cut
almost
some stuff.
2. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was some editing spaces in there, sure, but like not unbearable.
right. Yeah, I would give it 4 upside down crosses. Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad I got to watch it because A, it's a classic, and B, like I'm the things that I was exposed to of it were great to see, like in the purpose that they're meant to be seen as in this movie, but also the stuff that I didn't know was coming, like that fucking beheading, the fucking priest and the spear, like that, like it, all that stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is classic good religious horror, and I think it nails.
Yeah, there's not a lot of kills, but all the kills are great. It's great
So
stuff.
great.
Okay, Eileen, so now that you've confessed your sin, in order to be fully absolved, I'm going to assign you 3 movies. And if you would like to be fully absolved, you would need to watch these movies. Otherwise, you're going to burn in the fiery pits of hell. And that's not my fault. That's on you. Don't put that on me,
Listen,
Eileen.
I
Okay?
just watched The Omen. I gotta be careful. I've seen the too many devil things. I do not want to burn in hell.
That's right. So the first one I would say is the Changeling from 1980, starring George C. Scott.
Oh,
Great like horror movie. It's about like the loss of a child, just like this one
uh
is.
huh.
And yeah, I really loved it. I think you're really gonna enjoy that one.
Dope.
The other one I'd say is The Prince of Darkness from 1987 by John
Mm
Carpenter.
hmm.
That's another like apocalyptic movie.
Love.
Just yeah, I love John Carpenter. Love everything he does. I actually didn't like it when I first saw it, and I rewatched it a couple years ago, and I ended up loving it.
Okay, Prince of
Uh,
Darkness.
and and then the third one I would say is The Final Conflict, Omen 3, with
Oh,
Sam Neill from 1981. Now I
amazing.
don't know if you need to watch. I've never seen it, but Sam Neill is a fucking prince among, or he's just a gem.
Yeah,
So
national treasure, even though he's not
national
American.
treasure, right? So maybe you watch part 2. I don't know, but definitely
I'm def
I have to see
I'm def
this.
gonna watch part 2 just to make sure that Damien is living with the president now, and then after that, I'll for sure I mean, obviously, so I could be absolved, but
Yeah.
definitely to see what the hell is up with Sam Neill and what is he doing here in the Damien 3, in the Omen 3.
Awesome. Well, Eileen, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on. If you could please tell everybody where they could follow you, tell them all about your great podcast. Yeah, please go right ahead.
Well, thank you, Miguel, for having me on your lovely podcast. I had a delightful time. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Aileen Little Hands. And the L, the little is Lil, not little like Littl. So Aileen Lil Hands, and the and instead of an S at the end, it's a Z because I am cool. So Aileen Lil Hands on Twitter and Instagram, and TikTok if you want to follow me there. It's real nerdy there.
Oh, okay. I love TikTok. Come
Me
on.
too. It's the devil. Listen, if Damien is the son of the devil, TikTok is the actual devil. Um, and please follow Uy Que Horror. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at Uy Que Horror. And subscribe to our show. It's on all podcast platforms. Johnny and I have a lot of fun, and we watch great movies, bad movies, kind of okay movies. We have a fun time every time. We talk a lot of Spanglish. We're nerds, but it's a fun time. So I would love if you listen to that. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Give them a listen. Uike Aurora is like absolute delight every Monday. I wait for it when it drops.
Yes, every
It's
Monday
fun.
comes out on on Instagram. Every Thursday we post a dumb TBT picture where it's usually Johnny and I in high school or something nerdy that we've done in the past. So, you can see us be BFFs, which we're really proud of for some
Yeah.
reason.
And you're on a podcast network as well, right?
Yeah, we are. Wiki Horror is part of Sonoro Podcast, which is Latino based content. Uh, Basically, all of our podcasts are either fully in Spanish or Spanglish, and we cater to all kinds of listenership, but it's specific towards the Latino experience. It's a great network. You can follow them at Sonoro Podcast on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Awesome. So you can follow me on Twitter at MHC Pod, like My Horror Confessional Pod. You can follow me on Instagram at My Horror Confessional. If you'd like to email the show, you can email me at myhorrorconfessional@gmail.com. The music was done by Taylor Fox. You can follow her on Instagram at the Taylor Fox. She also has a band that will be releasing an album pretty soon here. They're called Great Hag. You can
Cool.
find them on Twitter. You can find them on TikTok as well. And the artwork was done by Cap Mikey, my friend Cap Mikey, and you can follow him on Instagram at Cap'n_Mikey_arts. That's the show. Thanks everybody for listening.